All right, and we are live here with Up West Sports. We got our man Jake from Raise the Trident in the house. Myself and Kyle Knowles, and yeah, we're gonna be talking about some Mariners baseball, some things that are happening, some things that are going on, what's cool, what's not cool, and I guess we'll kick it off on a good note. Mariners get the W today. That's a good note. That's a good thing. It's a good thing. Mariners hit. Um, Pitching is still not 100% there, but we're moving forward. We'll start with
Hmm.
that. And the hitters showed up today. I understand the wind was blowing out, but the hitters showed up. We had 4 home runs. We had two from each catcher and everything. Wanted to get your guys' take on today's game. Topics to cover tonight. Obviously, Rowdy Tellez. We're gonna raise a glass to him, but wanted to debrief the game first, and then give our condolences to Mr. Tellez. Guys, what are your thoughts on today's game? What's going through your guys' head after seeing that?
You can go ahead, Kyle.
I think he mentioned it like the pitching. And I think if you're trying to be a confident Mariners fan, you're seeing the floor of the pitching. We know what the ceiling is. We saw it last year. Or at least close to that ceiling. I mean, you had what, at least two guys that were in the Cy Young conversation, maybe a fringe third with Woo. I mean, you had you saw the ceiling of this staff. Now again, I don't think you see Miller again for the rest of the year. I think that's just I think that's whether he could come back. I think there's a mental aspect to it, but ultimately you were seeing the floor of our pitching staff. Injuries, this and that, and just performance. That should be exciting because we got the All-Star break coming up here not too long. Maybe these guys can rest up. Kirby, I think, is getting. It's not exactly how we thought it was going to show up. We thought he was going to be coming on, on a horse riding in to come save the day, and then we're just not getting that. So he's getting him figured out. But ultimately, we're just seeing the floor, and I'm excited about that. So our bats need to come through, and they really, for the majority of this season, have done exactly that. We get some really good performances. The Logan Evans, 8 inning masterpiece, stuff like that. They come in, kind of. I like to see them in more frequent action, but again, the bats have been there. They've been cold recently, but for the majority of the season, they have been there. And I think if our pitching can get even average, get to their average, what they are as pitchers, their average, floor, ceiling, and hit that middle spot, it's a dangerous club. And so I would take it as I'm excited. It's just you're now chomping as a Mariners fan, you're always chomping at the bit, like, oh, we're right there. When's it going to roll over? When's it going to turn over? So I'm excited, but that's kind of where I'm sitting today.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the game today, I think I said on Twitter earlier, like, I just feel like it was the best win they've had in about a month and a half. It felt like a lot of things came together really well. I mean, really the only there's only like two players that really didn't come through very well, and that would be George Kirby, and JP Crawford had a kind of a rough night for the most part. He got a little hosed on that comebacker to Boyd that thankfully did not hit him, and thankfully he caught it. Whatever. Glad he didn't get hurt or anything.
Washington State guy, so you
Yeah,
got to be appreciative of
yeah,
that.
very very scary moment, but that was also just another thing where like just super bad luck in the sense of could have been an up the middle single type thing, but overall just a really solid team win. Have to obviously shout out Mitch Garver. I mean, kind of crazy. Didn't have a single home run off of a pitcher all year, and then he has two tonight, so that was pretty cool. And then Cal Raleigh. I mean, really, like, what can you say about his season that hasn't been said at this point? I mean, he is legitimately on pace to have the best offensive catching season of all time, and it was what I thought was what's impressed me the most is we kind of had that like couple game span within the last week where we're like, okay, is he kind of cooling down? He started to seem to be struggling at the plate a bit. And I mean, last few games he's been dynamite again, and then of course tonight or today, I guess, just another two homer game to break the most home runs by a catcher before the All-Star break in MLB history, which is just incredible. And I was most recently watching if you guys have seen it, the History of the Seattle Mariners docuseries on YouTube by Secret Base by John Boyce and Alex Rubinstein. Really great documentary. It's my second time watching it, and I had to watch it for a thing I was throwing together for a stream tomorrow. But one of the things at the very end that they talk about is how when you look at the Mariners' history, you don't look at the teams as a whole. You have just several figures that are like the faces of the era. So you have Ken Griffey Jr., Randy Johnson, Alex Rodriguez a little bit, Ichiro, Felix, right? And it really like kind of put in my head, like, who is going to be that for the 2020s? And I mean, Cal Raleigh right now is looking like he's going to be that guy, which is crazy to say with Julio Rodriguez still on the team, and that's who you thought was going to be that. Right now, it's Cal Raleigh. Like, plain and simple, he is the one who, I think I said this as well earlier on Twitter too, that I think watching that documentary kind of made it sentimental to me that like so many Mariner fans grew up watching Griffey, grew up watching Johnson, were able to see their entire careers play out to the point where they became these, almost larger than life figures, right? And I'm like, today caught myself being like, I might be watching one right, like this might be mine, that I get to watch the career of this person become larger than life in Mariners fandom and baseball in Cal Raleigh. And that's really cool to be like, this might be happening. Now, obviously, you have to give it more than a few seasons. I have to see how the contract plays out. But I mean, right now, it's looking like the best extension in the world, right? But it's just impressive to see what he's doing. And it's just, especially that second home run, he nuked that. Like, it wasn't even a moonshot. He lasered it. And he crushed it. The last thing I'll say about today's game that was really cool, and I feel like the bullpen has really been a lot better recently for the most part, because I'm looking at the box score right now. Kirby, let's say I'm looking at the earned runs, right? Because that's obviously the most important part. Kirby 4-0-0-0-0-0 against the Chicago Cubs, who are one of, if not the best team in the National League. So it's just really impressive outing today, especially for guys like Bizzardo and Legumina, who are not our high leverage guys, who came in and took care of business. And that's what you want to see, especially after, one of your starting pitchers not having like necessarily the worst start ever. I mean, 4 earned runs is 4 earned runs. It's not like terrible, but it's also not good. But just to see them hold it down and let the offense kind of come back. And I think a lot of games, it feels like for the last month, have been either the bullpen blowing it or they nail it down and the offense just can't score any runs. So it was nice to see like just both happen at once, which is why I think it's one of the best wins they've had in the last like month and a half.
And that's why I had to pop that up, because when I saw that, I was like, yep, I agree. That was probably the best game to watch as a Mariners fan. Not just as a content creator, not just as a Mariners fan. That was probably one of the best games to watch in the past month. Honestly, since the 9 series stretch, that was awesome. It was really a good team effort win, and you saw bits and pieces of everything kind of going full force. I agree with the George Kirby situation. He had 14 strikeouts his last outing and everything. You're like, okay, is this guy back? What's this guy going to look like? You want to see it. You want to see it go for a couple outings where you can see a little bit of consistency before making that move. At least that's where I was at. 14 strikeouts is no. I don't want to ever take that away from somebody. He had a great game, and all credit is deserved 100%. But I do want to see how this rides out for the rest of this year and everything. And getting to your point about Cal Raleigh, that's it. Is this our guy? Is this the guy that, 50 years down the road, we're like, oh, we got to see Cal Raleigh play. We were actually, on the scene as content creators talking about it, and like we were in that was our era. And everything. So that was I think you're 100% correct. Noticing I think Adam Jude came out with is this the best contract extension under and I don't know if he said the Poto era or just the best contract
Mariners
history
ever. I think
Mariners history. I think it was that. And I actually had a small debate with Ty on my way home from work earlier today, and we were talking like, okay, who rivals this? We were talking about Felix and his extension. I think it was a 6-year 175, and he won the Cy Young I think the year prior to the extension. So
I think that was Seager. I think Seager was 10-year 175. I might be off on that one.
No, I think Seager was 10-year. Oh, you're right. I think it was. I think you're right. I think it was.
I'm thinking of Seager's deal.
Either way, we started going through it. Ichiro's extension, I think, rivals it, but still, we're 3 months into this bad boy, and we couldn't be happier with the extension, with everything that's gone. And yeah, when you look back at this, barring injuries, barring all the bad stuff, and I say it to be a realist, not to be a pessimist, but just understanding the game of baseball and how it works and how crazy it can be sometimes. Right now, that's looking very, very promising. And I said this probably a month ago, again, as a realist, not as a pessimist. I don't think he has any chance to get north of 50 home runs. I will swallow my pride and my words. I think he is well on his way to 50 plus. And I think we could be staring at history this year, in all honesty. So that's where I feel on Cal. And hey, if I'm wrong, I admit it. I'm not the type of guy that will be like, hey, I actually meant to say this. No, hey, I got it wrong.
I was trying to reverse jinx it.
Also, a shout out to Elysian Full Contact. Wanted to give the shout out to the beer. Full Contact Imperial Hazy IPA. I am not getting sponsored.
Trader Joe's apple juice mixed with water, baby.
Just so you guys know, we're not getting paid by these people. We just enjoy these beverages. So wanted to give a shout out. Speaking of shout outs, raise a glass and Rowdy Tellez, my man. Thank you for the memories and RIP, but gone, never forgotten, but also DFA'd. What does that look like going forward? We have Rowdy Tellez, who got DFA'd, and he's killing it in AAA. Does Tellez come back? Does he get shipped off? Do we end up getting some money back for him? Because he is, I will say, if he can do anything, he can hit the long ball, and he can give you that late inning chance at a victory. He can do that.
And a good glove.
And he's good enough.
Okay, glove.
Yeah. It's nothing. It's right. You're not going to talk about him with Casey Kochman, but he does it well over there. He's also a huge target, which I love Donovan Solano, but it's nice to have a 6'5" guy over there, or 6'4", however big the bear is over there and everything. But what does Rowdy Tellez situation look like from here? Because it's not over. He could still be a Mariner potentially. But is he? What does that look like in your guys' eyes? Where does he end up? Is it money? Is it a player? I know we need left-handed relief pitching, or at least depth in left-handed relief pitching. What are your guys' thoughts on Tellez's future, Mariner or not?
It's going to be worse if we don't make a deal for a guy that can be a Justin Turner type of effect, where he walks in the room and he like demands kind of, hey, you will hear me out. I will get you there. I will work you through. But ultimately, if we don't make a move like that to bring somebody in, it's going to feel like the Graveman move, where you have a clubhouse guy who's been effective. And it kind of takes the wind out of kind of the sails of the team as you're kind of trying to improve. I hope he comes back, because I think he's someone who he fits a role that, like you said, late inning guy, can be a guy that comes in, he can spot start. He's not going to be a, you think of a guy that size, he's got to be a liability in the field. No, he's actually productive. He works there. Like you said, he is a big target. And in the event you might throw a ball a little bit wider first base, he's a goddamn roadblock.
Yeah.
Runners are going to slow down to not run into him. If you want to see the videos, there's the proof. There's the proof. That is a comfort thing, especially when you get in these games where maybe there's a bang bang play and you got to throw a ball that maybe is going to be a little bit errant. You got a guy that's going to snag that thing. And then obviously the late inning heroics, which he did quite a bit for us. So I hope we get him back, and we can say whatever we want about some of the other players that maybe should have been DFA'd, a smaller target at first base maybe, but it's just he's been a great presence. I think he's brought a lot of joy, a lot of fanfare, and I hope nothing but the best. But I would love to see him back here.
Yeah, it's hard because I've made it kind of part of my identity on Twitter. It feels like to have Rowdy every time he does well or hits a home run to celebrate it, and so part of me is upset that he's not on the team in that sense. However, I will say that like going based off of the context as far as like bringing Luke Raley back and the trade deadline being close and all that stuff, I do unfortunately understand it to an extent, and the reason I say that is because although did he practically win us a series sweep in Toronto? Kinda, especially that game one with that grand slam, and forever that's going to be one of the best moments of this season. Like, no one's going to take that away from him. However, I think in the context of what we're getting back, I think, and me and Gavin were talking a little bit before we went live here, with Luke Raley back, and I would imagine the plan might be getting a first baseman at the trade deadline, barring that they're buyers. I understand it to the extent of Luke Raley's going to give you even more production than Rowdy could possibly right now. Like, that's just straight up, like, Luke Raley is a better player, and it's that simple. And I think obviously Solano is the kind of platoon bat for lefty pitchers, whereas Tellez was for the righties. He's a lefty bat. Raley's a lefty bat. And I think a lot of this was kind of spurred on Dom Canzone kind of not being terrible when they called him up. Because if he was, then I think that would have been the move. But I think a lot of it came down to, I think Canzone is really the reason why it was Tellez. I mean, now there is a debate between Solano and Tellez, but I think the context of the handedness and what they're probably going to try to do at first base with the platoons, obviously makes sense to not have two lefty bats there. And Solano's been better recently, a lot better recently than he was. Obviously today he had a multi-hit game, had a walk as well, and a really good defensive game too. It was a really just solid game for him. It felt like he was everywhere. So I think the org is probably saying, okay, Rowdy, when you look at his history, has really almost never been like, in WRC plus terms, in an above league average bat in a season. Solano has, especially within the last 5 years, he's been that 4 out of the 5 times, I think. Now, granted, as a bench piece, but that's how we're using him. We're using him as a bench piece. We're using him as a platoon guy, which is how he got those, 105, 110 WRC plus seasons, which isn't crazy, but it's better than Tellez. It's better than what he's been able to do. So I think they're going off of not only the hot hand with Solano hitting really decent right now, and he has that veteran. We've heard this veteran kind of clubhouse presence as well, which has been helpful for some guys. And I think they're going off a track record. I mean, if you were to blindly put up the numbers between Tellez and Solano within the last 5 seasons, say, who are you going to pick? You're going to pick Solano. And I think that's, with the context around it, I understand the move in that sense, especially with now, if Canzone was not playing well, they probably would have done that instead. But it just, I think it's an unfortunate move, but it's unfortunately just a baseball move. Like, this is just how baseball is. You're going to have those guys that you love and you kind of keep, close to your heart. And, Rowdy was that for me, is the chunky boy representation that we had. Right. And that was really fun. A fun thing to put into the fandom. But at the end of the day, I want the team to be good and winning baseball games. And when you look at it from that context, it makes sense why this was the move. As far as him keeping with the Mariners, he only was given, I think, like 1.1 something million dollars this year. So, I mean, if you think of the prorated amount, I would be a little surprised if there wasn't another team that would take a chance on him, kind of a fringe contender. I just don't know what team that would be. I don't know if there's a team that kind of needs that kind of power lefty bat at first base. Maybe there is. And if there is, he's probably gone. And even if he does fall through, I think he has like 6 years of service time right now. He probably can just choose to be a free agent, and I'd be a little shocked if he didn't do that. So I'd be shocked if we get him back to Tacoma, but if we do, then cool, I'll take it.
Yeah, and I also wanted to kind of talk about Rowdy Tellez, just the unfortunate circumstances he's been in, because right now I mean, do we think Donovan Solano should have made it past the first month? Should have made it past the second month? Probably not. Which we probably wouldn't even be having this conversation, because we don't have. I mean, Tyler Locklear, you could argue we don't have another first baseman that we can kind of run into this conversation, which would probably force Jerry's hand to go find another righty. But for argument's sake, let's just say it was Rowdy Tellez, and he has done a phenomenal job with one thing, and that's putting the ball over the fence. Which before today's game, I looked it up, and they had 91 home runs on the year. They were top 10 in home runs as a team, but they're pretty much all coming from 4 or 5 guys. And Rowdy Tellez was one of those guys. He was one of 4 guys that were above 10 home runs, and they were timely home runs. Like when the lights turn on, the guy can play. And I understand this is where I love analytics, but the experience part of it gets the best of me sometimes. And this is where I take a look and just say, all right, the home runs that he is hitting are beneficial to the team. The home runs that Donovan Solano's hitting, well, he has one. So there's that. And granted, he's been hitting very, very well. Again, this is not, Jake and I were talking about this. This is not anti Donovan Solano. This is just 100% pro Rowdy, especially right now. Since he's gone, we're keeping it all upbeat for Rowdy Tellez.
Yeah.
But I did want to mention his.
I was gonna say last note what you were gonna say about the power hitting and whatnot, and I understand to an extent being like, well, Tellez has 10 home runs, Donovan has 1. Solano's not gonna be putting the ball over the fence. We're gonna be lucky if he reaches 5 for the whole season, right? And I understand, especially from a first base spot, you want that person putting the ball over the fence. But let's say Rayleigh slots in there. I think Rayleigh hits more home runs than Tellez is going to. He has more power than Tellez does, and just a general better bat. And if he slots in where Tellez is, I mean, Solano's gonna get as limited playing time as he's already getting. So really, things if you think about it, it's like, okay, you have Rowdy, Tellez, and Solano that we had, and how is that working with the home runs? Then we have Rayleigh and Solano. You're gonna get more home runs. Unless Rayleigh gets hurt or something. So
it's the Moneyball scenario. Do you project more wins with Hatterberg or with Pena at first? And that's just kind of what it breaks down to. And I agree. I think you get more out of Luke Rayleigh 100%. It's just it's a sad thing to see Rowdy Tellez go, especially when he wasn't doing so bad, right? Like he wasn't batting sub
93 WRC plus on the season. Like he's been a little bit below, but he's been fine.
Wasn't doing so bad. So wherever he lands up, and I did want to bring that up all to say that this isn't the only time he's been kind of screwed over, for lack of a better term. Last year, he fell a couple ABs or PAs shy of his bonus. Was it 4? Was it 4?
4. I think it was I think it was 4.
The Pirates kind of screwed him over on that end of him getting his bonus. And so it's just like he just happens to be in an unlucky spot again. But I just wanted to let it be known, Rowdy Tellez is forever a Mariner in my eyes. And however it shakes down, I hope I hope he comes back. But Kick Dirt mentioned Red Sox might low-key be looking at taking a shot on him, and I don't disagree with that at all. I think the left-handed bat with Devers gone and with Tristan Casas, that it makes sense to take a shot on the guy, especially since 1.1 million prorated at this point is what, like 700, 800 grand, like maybe not even that. And the Red Sox have the money, especially after getting rid of Rafi Devers. That's 30 plus odd million gone off the books there. So yeah, it's a tough scenario, because if you would have let Donovan Solano go, the guy was on the up. He had an incredible past month. I think in his last 15 games, he had like a 120 something WRC plus, and the guy was doing incredibly well. So it's more of a just hey man, captain, my captain, thank you for being a Mariner, and hopefully we see you on the other end of the tunnel. And who knows? Maybe he ends up popping up in AAA Tacoma, but I at this point I doubt it. And hopefully they get something for it. Hopefully they can at least get a couple bucks back, or like the Ryan Stanek deal for Ryland Thomas, something to that effect, where you can find somebody that can help you out at the big league level at some point. But yeah, it's tough days for a Rowdy Tellez fan. And also shout out to the Rowdy Tellez fan that was rocking I know everybody was talking about him on Twitter, the Tellez jersey with the
Rowdy Tellez fan club hat or something.
Tellez or die or something. I can't remember what it said on his hat, but shout out to that fan. We feel for you, man. We feel for you. When I woke up, it was probably one of the most depressing news that I've heard, but I knew it wasn't off the
I woke
table.
up to it too.
Yeah, I knew it wasn't off the table. You didn't want to see it. You were hoping maybe they'll just IL, because I saw it might have been Adam Jude, it might have been Kramer, but one of them was saying Dylan Moore was having some wrist issues, or
they're saying Tellez was
having wrist issues, that there could be an IL stint or a phantom IL stint, if you will, which could have given them another 15 days to kind of figure things out. Maybe Dominic Canzone goes through a bad time, and now you're okay with using that option, pulling him down. But yeah, and the other part with Luke Raley, it's nice to have him at first, but man, he is such a good outfielder. The guy is faster than I had given him credit for when we first got him. He had another great diving catch in right field today. To not use him in the outfield and to use Canzone, which analytics might say he's average, but I just look at him out there and I'm like, I think you get more from Luke Raley, in all honesty. Just with Luke Raley's track down speed. I'd like to see his route running. I don't know who has the sports science behind that. Rest in peace, Mr. Backus. But yeah. And no, Kick Dirt, we're not out on Raley at first. It's just more so like I like him in the outfield. I think he's a better outfield, but because Solano is kind of your only other option, or if you wanted to train up Mitch Garver, I think it's about that point in his career that he makes the move to first. And then if you move Garver to first, who does that relieve room for another catcher to come up for? I don't know, Harry Ford or something like that. I don't know. Opens the table for that. But also, I get why they're not calling up Harry Ford. Just to kind of get off topic for a minute, I get why they're not calling him up, because if he just continues to rake in AAA, that just improves his trade value. Whereas, we call up Cole Young and he's been okay. He's starting to figure it out, but he's been okay. Had we left Cole Young in AAA, he'd probably still be more attractive than he was currently, just because you're seeing him go through a little bit of struggle in the early bits of his career. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at on all that and everything. And rest in peace, Rowdy Tellez, Mariners career for the moment. We will see where that ends up after the whole DFA situation. But yeah, what's your guys' thoughts for the rest of the series? So we got, I'll go ahead and pull it up here so everybody can take a look at the rest of the series. The probable pitchers, the matchup, all the good stuff. We had George Kirby taking on Matt Boyd, 206 madness right there from Mr. Boyd. I played against him in high school. Yeah, Mudville 9, if you're familiar with summer baseball teams in the Northwest. Emerson Hancock taking on Cade Horton tomorrow. That is a heck of a matchup. And then Logan Gilbert taking on Colin Ray. What's your guys' thoughts for the rest of the series? Was today an anomaly, or do we have a chance to kind of do some dirty damage?
Jake, you take it.
Yeah, I'll take it because I'll have to take off in a minute. So I guess it's hard. I'm terrified of watching an Emerson Hancock start in Wrigley Field. I am going to be on the edge of my seat the whole time because, at the end of the day, like, Hancock's been pitching really good. He gives up contact, and if he lets anything fly in the air, it's probably going out of Wrigley Field. So I think I'm terrified for that, but if he pulls through, then that's going to be maybe one of the most impressive starts he's ever had, frankly, rivaling his Fenway start. So, if he like pitches a quality start or something, that would be really impressive. I don't really know a whole lot about Cade Horton or Colin Ray. I just know Colin Ray was on the Brewers last year, but I don't really know a whole lot about them. Gilbert, I mean, I don't know what we're going to get from him. He's only had one quality start all year, and I don't know what the deal is with him this time as far as like short scripting. I don't know if they're going to let him go into the 90s or not. So that'll be interesting to watch. I really think we need to put it away tomorrow for the series win, frankly, just because you don't know what you're going to get from Gilbert, not only in performance right now, but also how long he can go and just like the injury stuff. It just, I feel like every start you're going to be kind of watching look like, like a hawk as far as all of his demeanors and all that, because I remember last start, there was one time when after he struck someone out, it looked like he winced and I kind of freaked out. And then I realized he was actually just pumped up for the strikeout. But for a second, my heart skipped a beat because I thought we were about to have him gone for the rest of the year. So yeah, I just think the biggest thing they need to do, which is what they did today, they need to contain PCA. And it was really impressive how well they contained him. 3 foul ball flyouts. And I don't remember what the other one was, but just him, I think it was a strikeout. He's going to be the biggest factor, especially going into a game like Emerson Hancock, man. I mean, they're really going to need to contain him because he was in some big spots too, where he could have given the Cubs some runs and he popped out, which was super clutch. So I would say my overall feelings is terrified, and I'll always be a little bit cautiously optimistic. But I think if you're going to win this series, I think you need to try to get it tomorrow, especially since a lot of your bullpen is going to be still pretty okay. I did my bullpen tracker earlier, so it posts this tomorrow. And I don't remember what the deal was. Pretty much only Vargas is probably down, and maybe Brash, considering his control today was really not great. But we'll see. But if it's only Vargas, then I think utilize that, especially with Emerson Hancock on the mound, and hopefully they can pull it out tomorrow. Because if they pull it out tomorrow, I'll be really, really stoked. Because at that point, I don't really care about what happens Sunday. Like if they lose, they lose. Like whatever. It's a good start to the road trip because on paper, I would have said they're going to lose this series against the Chicago Cubs. So if they manage not to, I'll be pleasantly surprised and happy about it. So.
And one quick question before you take off, and then we'll get to you, Kyle. Sorry. Who has to step up from people that one of the players that maybe have not stepped up, or who do you need to see that just extra effort from at the plate to kind of get
for tomorrow
this thing
specifically,
going
or the whole series?
For the whole season from here on out? Who's that one series player that you hope? I know I'm making it a little bit larger scale, but who's the one player you think needs to step up? I mean, you need to see maybe they might be playing well, but maybe
you exclude Julio from that too. Because
yeah,
it's
I'm not going to say Julio.
I'll take Julio.
That's a
away
cheating.
From that.
Yeah, thank you. It's
practically cheating.
But in your opinion, who do you think needs to kind of be that guy that steps up? And just kind of takes the reins and gives us a stellar second half of the season.
So I think if we're going to take it as someone who maybe hasn't stepped up as much as you wish, And so like I'm not going to put JP Crawford there. He's hitting the ball fine. He had one bad day. Obviously not going to put Cal there. He's doing plenty fine. I'm like looking at the roster here. I'm going to say my eye is going right to Randy Arozarena.
That's what I was. Yep.
Yeah,
that was mine too.
I think he's the biggest factor because, and I think it was interesting when I was doing a little, I was looking at some stats yesterday for one of the offensive graphic and whatever. The last 7 days, it's like his batting average is like 116 or something crazy, but his on base percentage is like 450, and that gives him like a really like an actually good WRC plus. But I think from him, what I would like to see more is obviously a little bit of a cut down on the strikeouts because he can strike out. It's like pretty much hit, walk, or strikeout, which I guess makes sense. I mean, that's how baseball works, but you know what I mean? I think for me, seeing a bit of that power would be nice because he's hitting a lot of doubles right now specifically, but I would like to see some Randy Arozarena nukes. I think that would be nice. So I think he's he's just such a big X factor, and we saw it today. He had 3 hits today, and he when he's on, he's a really great baseball player, and he's just kind of streaky a little bit. And I would like to see a bit of consistency and maybe a little bit more power from him because I think he is just one of those guys that like when he's on, he is going to give you a massive spark. Not only offensively, but just energy. People like you can tell when he is right, the team feeds off of him. I felt this on opening day when he hit that home run to kind of get us back in the game. Like you could just tell they feed on that when he is hitting nukes. Like the boys are fired up. So I'll put Randy Arozarena on that for my last take of the night.
That's exactly where I was at, and it's the power also. I'm okay if it's not going to be 25 plus bombs, but if they're the timely bombs, right, where it's the situation with a runner, we're down by 2 in the 8th inning and he hits the 2-run bomb. Those are the types of home runs that I'm like, that's the power we need to see. That's when the ball needs to go over the fence, and that's what you're hoping to get out of Arozarena. But yes, that 100%. I was on the same page as you. I think seeing a little bit more from Randy Arozarena would be probably what this team needs to kind of push them in the right direction. Jake, man, thank you so much for joining. I know you got to get out of here.
You're good.
And everything.
You're good,
so thank you so much, and tell your wife thank you for letting us join and everything. And also, Jake is hosting a pretty cool event tomorrow. If you haven't figured or if you haven't seen it, we're running a fundraiser. So please join in tomorrow, even if it's just for a little bit, even if it's just to say hi. We're playing a pretty cool game of Kahoot. So yes, please join in. It's going to be through Jake's stream and everything. And if you are following me and not following Jake, you're making a bad decision. Go ahead and give Jake a follow, give him a subscribe, check out his stuff. He does a phenomenal job, but we're excited to get that thing kicked off tomorrow. I believe it is at 1 p.m. Tomorrow till 4 p.m.
Yep. So 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. At least on the Mariner Mojo YouTube channel. If I'm hoping my channel too. We'll see what StreamYard allows. I'm not sure what the deal is on StreamYard for how many outlets you can do. So at least the Mariner Mojo channel, we're raising some money for the Lambert House, which is based in King County. It's an LGBTQ plus charity that specifically helps LGBTQ plus youth in King County with various different services. They do a lot of good stuff. So we're hoping, in honor of Pride Month to raise some money for them. It's going to be a good time. So 1 to 4, we have 7 different giveaway items right now. So you could win a Mitch Haniger autographed ball. We're giving away tickets to a value game, 2 tickets to any value game. We're giving away, I think the coolest thing is Alex Mayer. He is known for his game-winning stats on Twitter, and he tends to doodle on little pieces of paper when he's throwing these stats together, and he was gracious enough. He's sending me one in the mail right now. I don't know if it's here yet, but one of his little doodle papers of his interesting stats that was actually used on a broadcast last year. He gave it straight to Aaron Goldsmith. So you can win that, which is cool. Little piece. And then also, if you're into Simply Seattle and Mariners gear, $100 e-gift card to Simply Seattle. That's pretty sweet as well. All that's going to be given away just to a viewer. You just have to view the stream. You don't have to donate. We'd obviously appreciate you if you do. We're trying to get to about $1,000 if we can. That's kind of our goal right now. But regardless, you don't have to. You can just be a viewer of the stream. It'll be random. We'll probably put up one of the prizes for like whoever wins Kahoot, but otherwise it's just for the viewers in general. So yeah, hopefully we can raise some money for a good cause. We're trying to do it about like twice a year doing these charity streams. Last one went really well and was very fulfilling to do, and really cool to do something nice like that. So doing it again. So hopefully we'll see some more people there.
Perfect. Yeah, wanted to give a huge shout out to that because we're all fired up for it and everything. So excited to jump on as well, and obviously thank you for inviting us as well to jump on over there. But yeah, if you're not privy to the information, you just got it. So we'll hopefully see you all tomorrow over there as well. But Jake, man, thank you so much. Really do appreciate it. Tell your wife thank you again for the time that we were able to steal you away and everything. And but yeah. Go M's. And Kyle, what's your thoughts on the rest of this weekend? Sorry, I know we
You're good.
Took some time.
Season. Thank you, Kyle. I hope you have a good night as well, brother.
Oh, thanks. You as well. Take care.
Yeah, thanks.
I was looking at the Cubs the last I can't go back last 10 games, let's say. And of the games they've scored more than 4 runs, I think they've won. Sorry, of the games that they've scored more than 4 runs, I think they've only lost 2. Probably the last 10 or so games. So I think the formula is keep them within 4 runs. Now, granted, that means we got to score more than that, but just looking at the run, I pull it up here, look at what they did. Yeah, just thinking of June, right? If you go back to June, they scored 7 runs against the Reds and won. They scored 8 runs against the Cubs and won. They scored 0 against the Nationals and lost. They scored 7, won. They scored 1, lost. Scored 6, won. Scored none, lost. Scored 3 and lost. Scored 8, won. Scored 2, lost. Scored 3 and 1. That was probably one of the few times they actually won. With kind of less than 4 runs. And a lot of times you just kind of look at what they're doing. Like when they win by, a high margin, or they're winning by a lot of runs. And so for me, I know it sounds stupid, right? We got to score a lot of runs to win the game, but for them, that 4-run mark, I know that 4-run mark is kind of their over under. If you can keep them at 4 runs or less, you have a chance to win. And I know that's kind of a really bad stat, but I look at what we did today, and we've been, for a lot of times we put up runs. Unfortunately, we just give up more, and we score 5, but we lost 8-5, so if we can, it's just kind of, they're really good at getting to that 4-run mark. And if we can just keep them there, just statistically, or not statistically, but just looking at the numbers, again, analytics will say something completely different, but just looking at it from a high level, you just know you're going to probably give up 4 runs. If you can keep them right there, you've got yourself a shot. Offensively, you just kind of keep doing what you're doing. You scored 9 runs today. You had some production from some guys that really, Solano probably felt the hot seat today. Of any days, he felt it today, and he produced. So you got to take that. Garver, who, has kind of been. He's a spot guy. He does his thing. Came out, blazing. 2 home runs. I mean, phenomenal. Let's go. But again, I think it just comes back to keep the runs around 4. We know we'll give up runs. That's where our pitchers are at. Give it the 4 runs. Just know that you're kind of. I mean, it'd be great to wake up, say, hey, you're down 0-4. Go. And pitching, our bullpen was great today. I mean, I think, what was it? Did they give up any hits today as the bullpen? I had to go back and look.
2 hits. Edward Bizzardo gave up 1, and Casey Legamina gave up 1. They only gave up 2 walks as well. So, yeah, it looks like, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 innings. They gave up. It was a one whip day.
We gave up
2
one in the
hits,
6th
2
and one in the
walks.
9th. Okay, at that point. So our bullpen is doing what they should be doing. I mean, you saw 5 of them today that put on a great performance. I'd love to see Hancock be able to stretch to the 6th. Just the fact that we threw 5 guys today. Try to give an arm a break. Try to not have to go back to the bullpen as deep as we did today. So I know Vargas. I know Spire only pitched a third, so he's probably good tomorrow. Vargas, you could probably say he's probably good as well. But if we could get another, if we get 6 innings out of Emerson, he can, again, Jake made a great point. If he puts the ball in the air, that's not exactly ideal. In Chicago right now, it'd be worse if you were in Colorado. But if you can keep us within 4, let the bats do what they do. Anything can happen.
I'll take it a step further. Because if you're expecting 6 from him, if he can keep it at 3, I think you're in the market, because you expect potentially 1 to come up, in that back half, or at least you're at least giving the room for 1 to come up, from the back half of your bullpen, which it's going to happen from time to time. They didn't let up any runs today from the bullpen in those 4 innings. They did a phenomenal job there. But tomorrow, yeah, they the room for error to have that 1 run in the 7th, 8th, and 9th, it's there. It could happen. And so I would say yes. 6 and 3. Give yourself a quality start, and that's how you can kind of set this team up for success. But also, and I know they don't usually operate like this, but if he's 85 pitches, even close to 90, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be against pushing him out for another inning if he's cruising, right? If
or
he's
at
getting
least
hit
till he
around,
gives
if
him a
he's
hit,
got,
right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. When you give a guy a chance to go back out, it's, hey, if
Yeah.
you let up a runner, we're probably going to pull you. But if you get 2 outs and then you give up a hit, okay, your leash gets extended just a little bit. That's at least how that's how we ran it in the college game. I doubt they run it the exact same at that level, but yeah, it's the more outs you get, the more leash that you get. And they just historically they don't operate like that. Like I know, like last year, Brian Wu was taken out at 80 to 85 pitches a lot. And it was, just trying to manage that. And this is one area where I'm not going to, berate Jerry and company for doing, because they've done a good job of keeping our guys healthy for the most part, and knock on wood, but they've done a good job of keeping our guys healthy. The years like this are I guess more normal for other teams. They're not normal for us. This is new to us. We're new and not privy to having guys injured and guys going down for months, not just weeks. So this is new to us, but this is kind of a normal wear and tear of a team. Also, this is not a normal team having 5 really good starters that could, turn the corner at any point in time. We're still waiting on George Kirby to really turn that corner. But you saw a 14 strikeout game not too long ago. It's there. Something's there to work with and everything. And then, you obviously got Brian Wu, who's starting to turn his corner. Logan Gilbert, who's turned his corner last year, and this year is just, I think he's maybe battling some fatigue, maybe battling some injury stuff. But then you see 10 strikeouts in his last start, and you're like, okay, something's there. Let's see what we got out of him going forward. Yeah, Bryce Miller, I wouldn't be surprised if you don't see him pitch again for the rest of this year. I know some people are saying, hey, maybe we take a look at him out of the bullpen. And I don't disagree that he wouldn't be good out of the bullpen. That's not what I'm disagreeing with. I'm just saying it's not worth it to potentially set him back for another however long it needs to be. Now, if it ends up being he needs to go under the needle and get Tommy John or labrum surgery, whatever it ends up being, then I'd prefer that sooner rather than later. Me personally, I'd prefer that sooner rather than later. That way you can start the rehab process and get going on all that stuff, rather than if you wait until the end of the year.
Sometime this year. You'd see him sometime this year, next year. I'm sorry,
Yeah, definitely next year. Just if it's especially if it's labrum. If it's labrum, they're done for 2025 for sure. But you get everything started sooner rather than later. And with TJ, it depends on the severity of it. You could see it as quick as 8 to 10 months. Guys coming back and just getting rehab stints, not major league stints, rehab stints, but by making that comeback and being on a mound competitively, you can see it as quick as 8 to 10 months. But if it's more severe, you could see it being 15 plus months. So it just depends on where everything's at with Bryce Miller. But I would be more cautious than not, in all honesty. I know you don't have the starting pitching depth that you wish you would have had, and this was definitely a hot topic when we were having our conversations right when the season got started and before the season and even leading into the season. There just needed to be more starting pitching depth at the top, and the fact that you took Brandon Garcia, you put him in the pen, even though I know that's another area that you need is left-handed pitchers out of the pen. It just felt underprepared. The one guy that could have made the push this year, Brandon Garcia, we moved him to the pen, and could have been kind of a top dog, I guess is the best way to put it. I understand there's Michael Morales out there. You could look at him and see what he's got to offer. I don't know what that looks like at the next level. His strikeout numbers have been, I guess, just middling. So he's not going to be a strikeout guy, and maybe that works. But we're starting to get into really getting into the hot months where the ball flies. So if you can combat that, it's a victory. So we'll see how Michael Morales surfaces at the top, and if he does surface this year. But the depth in general at the starting pitching position right now, it's just kind of non-existent. You have Jonathan Hernandez, Logan Evans.
Logan Evans, who's I think was last start or the second to last start was phenomenal. I think you and I were. I know I was kind of heated about. We talk about giving a guy the opportunity to close it out, right? Hey, we're gonna send you back out there. You give up a runner, you're out. Now, I still think he earned that opportunity. I'm pissed that he didn't, but no, I agree. I think the depth, and we talked about the depth was always an issue. Now, I think it was an issue because we didn't know if they were going to, these opportunities that would come up. Okay, Logan Evans, he's been productive for the most part. He's young, and so is it. It's just a lot. Again, it's all projections, right? Like Morales could be an ace. We just don't know it, and so it's. But I think but to your point, just not having kind of that confidence to say, oh yeah, we've got 4 guys that we could bring up at any point in time, ready to roll, at least, for a spot start here and there.
And not just, not what we're used to, the caliber of player that we have that's been the starting pitching for kind of the last 2 years. Just having guys that can be a decent 3 on most teams or a decent 4 on most teams that could come in and spare us at the number 5, which Emerson Hancock, a lot of people were against him at the beginning of the season. I said, hey, let's let it rock and see what happens with him, because I know there's something left in Emerson Hancock. And a lot of people wanted to move him to the pen, which that's still not off the table. He could move to the pen. If everybody comes back healthy and you have all 5 of your guys next year, he could make that move. You just never know what that's going to look like. And especially as his velo continues to tick up over, from last year to this year, we've seen a pretty good tick. He's now consistently hitting the 94, 96 range, and you're starting to see 97s pop. Last year, he was, sitting in that 92, 94 range, and you'd see a 5 or 6 flash every now and then. So it's nice to see the velo tick, because I think that's helping him. The other stuff is just stuff. That's exactly what it is. It's good stuff. That he's got a decent slider. He's got a really good changeup, and he's mixing and matching really well. And he's now starting to look more and more like that number 6 overall pick that you had in the 2020 draft. It's kind of tough to be a 6th overall given the context of everything. But he's starting to be at least worth more and more of that 6th overall pick that we had in 2020. And then, Logan Evans is starting to step up. But beyond those guys, you have Jonathan Hernandez, and then you got, I don't know. Like, that's the other thing is you had Brandon Garcia, you have Michael Morales, but we have no idea what they're going to do. And Brandon Garcia is now in the pen, and we'll see what that looks like at the major league level. Once we see what that's like, I don't know what their plan is to bring him up. Like, he's not getting any younger, and we tend to do, at least under Jerry, we tend to let our guys get too old. And we talked about Jake Shiner. We've talked about some of these guys that just come through and they don't even really get a chance. Tyler Locklear is now in that position. Understandably, why he's not playing this year. But it's one of those guys that you're not seeing if they can actually help you out. You're not seeing if they're actually major league caliber. You don't know if right now you'll never know what you don't know if they're just going to be AAA guys or 4A guys. So we are stuck in that same boat of our own internal guys. And I know we talked about the young man, the lefty from Coastal Carolina, Reed Van Scoter. We talked about him. He's another guy that's should be given an opportunity at some point this year just to see what he's got. If he comes up and he shits the bed, then he shits the bed. All right, now he's either not ready and he's 25, 26 years old. So it's like, okay, time to nut up or shut up. But also if that's the case, okay, now you have to find somebody else and you can move on in another direction. But the more you keep them in AA and AAA, the more you don't know what you have. Because until they prove it at the major league level, as we've seen, until they prove it at the top, you don't have anything. We love Cole Emerson to death, but until we see what he can do at the major league level, you don't know exactly what you have. We love Cole Young, but until he's hitting like Cole Young, we all think Cole Young can hit. You don't know what you have. So getting off on a tangent there, but wanted to throw it back over to you on your thoughts.
That's a whole other story.
Yeah, and like Dylan Moore is kind of bad right now. And Leo Rivas does the exact same stuff, except he's a switch hitter, so he can do it from both sides of the plate. And I know that speaks, if you're a matchups guy, that speaks to Dan and it speaks to you because he can give you left, he can give you right. He gets on base. He's not, he's going to be what Donovan Solano should have been from day one, and he's been that. And do I expect it for a full year? No. But also, I didn't expect it from Donovan Solano either. I expected Donovan Solano to kind of be a backup piece when we first got him and be kind of that 280 hitter off the bench that gets spot starts, that gets, maybe 300 at bats for the year, and just helps a team get to where they need to be, not be the team. So that's kind of where I'm at with Leo Rivas. Can't talk tonight. Maybe it's the Elysian full contact IPA I'm drinking, but yeah, Leo Rivas is another guy that should be given another opportunity. Yeah, what's your thoughts on all that?
I mean, I brought him up, right? Look at Rivas, 283 hitter, 411 on base, 300 slugging. Dylan Moore, 232, 293, 417. And again, he's got about, I think Rivas has 60 plate appearances or at bats. I think Dylan Moore was at 150. You just look at walks and strikeouts. Lou Rivas is 12, 15 walk to strikeout. Dylan Moore's 14 to 55. So, you could duplicate your numbers, and Dylan Moore has 14 walks at 150 plate or 150 at bats. So I got a problem too. Rivas has got 2 less walks and almost 90 less at bats. It's just, again, it's not just about hitting, it's about getting on base, turning the lineup over. And Rivas is a solid 7 through 9 guy. Dylan Moore is your 7 through 9 guy. At least he should be. The only difference between the two guys is Dylan Moore's going to hit home runs. Rivas just won't. But would you trade strikeouts for walks? And I wouldn't 100% because that's one less out. And so it just, again, I'm not in the position. I'm here on a camera saying what I think would happen. It's up to the guys that actually make the money to make the decisions. But I always wanted to ask you the question. We talked about who's a person that we need to see step up. I wanted to have the wrinkle of, and they're not on the roster today. Who would that be? I mean, I might ask you that now, Gav. Like, who would that be? The guy that's not on the roster today that we expect to be someone who's going to be a catalyst for the Mariners the rest of the season.
Can I answer that with multiple answers?
Sure.
Yeah.
Multiverse
So
here, you know.
It's either gonna because I'm playing the waiting game. I don't know what Jerry's gonna do. So my answer would be either the trade that they make between now and the deadline. Whoever that person is, hopefully they understand that it should probably be another bat. And if they can go pick up another fifth arm, or fifth starting pitcher / long relief pitcher, if they can pick up that guy as well, that's cheap, like a Ryan Baraki, which the Pirates are all but out of it already. Picking up Ryan Baraki, his numbers aren't amazing, or going to the Rockies and seeing what their starting pitchers are, and just kind of checking in and seeing what they would sell them for. That would be kind of another route I would go. But as far as bats go internally, I would say, yeah, that's not on the roster right now. Probably, I mean, guys that are pushing the needle, right? Like Harry Ford could be the guy that gives them the boost that they need, if they decide that that's what they want to do, use him for. Even if he's just a September call up, but he's helping you out in September when you need it. Because right now, with where they're playing, they're probably gonna still be fighting in September. There's no clear cut. We'll be in first place and don't have to worry about anything in September. We can play whoever we want. I would say Harry Ford is probably at the top of that list. I'm trying to think of other guys that are making that move. I would say, if you asked me this probably 2 weeks ago before Canzone got called up, I'd say Canzone. Canzone would probably be that answer. But currently, yeah, probably Harry Ford. I just don't know when that call up's gonna happen, because as we talked about earlier, keeping him in AAA and having him just dominate and continuing dominating right now makes him that much more attractive at the trade deadline for a very lucrative trade that could help you out. So no matter which direction they go with Harry Ford, I hope they make the right one. William, Rockies, Jake Bird. Yes, that's another good one. Honestly, take anybody out of the Rockies and just see like how they do. I was a big fan of Casey Lawrence, and then when he left to go to the Pirates, he started looking really good. I've mentioned that on previous streams and previous podcasts. I like Casey Lawrence. I was a big fan of him. If he wasn't on a rookie contract, I would say, who's their other? They got a right-handed pitcher right now, fairly young. Now I'm blanking on the name, but I got to look it up. Rockies starters. Let's take a look. Depth chart. I know. Bear with me, guys. Ryan Feltner, and he's on the IL. But I was a big fan of Ryan Feltner. I think he's on the rookie contract and everything. Jake Bird's a good one. Yeah, Jake Bird is definitely a good one. And I don't think there's a lot of teams, as we mentioned before, that are big in selling right now. I think there's so many teams that are still competing and trying to stay afloat and keep in it and just not know where they're at. And shout out to Colby Patnode, who mentioned these next 20 some odd games before the break mean everything. It's going to determine who's a seller, who's a buyer, because right now there's too many people in the mix for that playoff spot. And so between now and then, the chips will kind of lie. So right now it's still hard to tell who's going to be on that end. But if you're taking the Pirates, if you're taking the Rockies, if you're taking the Marlins, I would say the Angels, but they will never trade with us. It's just if history repeats itself, or if history shows anything, the Angels will never do a deal with Jerry Dipoto. They can't stand us, which hey, feelings mutual. We're on the same page there. I still go back on the trade side of things. I still go back to, it could be another year where we're looking at a Kendall Graveman for an Abraham Toro situation. You're looking for a 4A player. You're looking for a kind of a cross to cross type deal. If somebody is willing to take the handout on, I can't say handout, but if he can start hitting a little bit, Dylan Moore could be a guy that, Dylan Moore could be that guy that you trade, and maybe you get your Jake Bird, maybe more than Jake Bird, but maybe you get that guy back from a pitching perspective, and you call up Leo Rivas to kind of be the other side of that. Then you need to go get your bat. I still think, unless Randy Arozarena, which Jake left us on a great note, and I full-heartedly agree. If you go out, if Arozarena is that bat that steps up between now and the All-Star break, now you're looking at just best bat available, maybe just somebody that can add that thump, and it would be nice to kind of resurface that conversation about Rowdy Tellez and just bringing him back and having him off the bench that can be the power off of the bench. But that's the situation you want to put yourself in, getting into All-Star break and then post All-Star break into trade deadline is hopefully you're in a comfortable spot to add that one more bat and or one more arm. And now you can start looking at bench pieces and who the best pieces are. Sometimes that might come internally. We talked about Leo Rivas being, coming up, and maybe he's the answer. Maybe he's the guy, and you don't need to go trade for a bat on the bench. So long-winded answer on on who I think should step up. Harry Ford is probably my internal answer. The real answer would be probably somebody else. And yes, William Artie Moreno feud with Dipoto. Absolutely, they have to hate each other. Dipoto, from what I've been told, is he was kind of handcuffed over there. He was, I guess, kind of forced in the deal with Josh Hamilton. He was forced in the deal with Albert Pujols, and I don't know if that's necessarily what he wanted to do, but that's kind of as the story was told back then. And I wish I can give credit to the person that told me this, or where I saw it, the source and everything. But that was back in 2015, 2016 when we first got Jerry Dipoto. And it was just like, okay, here's a guy that, he's excited to have his own, doing. Like he's got his own way, and no one's gonna, force him to do anything. But he's handcuffed in other ways. But we won't get into that. Today was a good day. We'll celebrate it. But Kyle, I'll kick the question back over to you. Who's the guy that's got to step up that's not on the roster right now?
Oh, I thought you were going to say who's not okay on the roster. I'm going to go. Sorry, I was thinking elsewhere. So I'll go with your kind of two-laned answer. So
yes,
in-house, I have to go. I feel like it might be Rivas. I have a feeling the guy just plays, and it's just I don't know if he's one of those guys you just don't know if he just someone looks at him and goes, I just see something better in somebody else. There's something about him. Maybe I don't know what it is, because all the guy has done so far is produced. You look at his stats, you look at what he's doing. Like you kind of question, like I mean, I'd love to know if he's even getting like interest. Like if other teams be like, hey, I'll take him. If you really don't want him, I'll take him for this. But we don't get that intel, right? But I would love to say, I think with Dylan Moore, the hard part with him is he would probably start on some of these lower tier teams, a Marlins or Rockies, maybe teams that are a little bit better than that. And for us, just because of what we're trying to do, what our farm system has done, especially like, with a Cole Young, hey man, like you are a super utility. You want to go glove as that. We need to find a guy that's going to be our everyday second baseman or everyday third baseman and so on. And you can see Ben Williamson and Cole Young, who are finding their way through the system. They're finding their way through the major leagues. And if both those guys finish at 250 this season, I am stoked. I am absolutely stoked, because everyone's like, whoa, God, they were hitting 500 in AAA. Whole different game. I'd rather have a guy that hits 250 in the major league level, hits 500 in AAA, and I think we talk about the 4A players. I think a guy that can hit 250 in the major leagues is not a 4A player. That's pretty hard to do. So taking, that aside. So internally, I got Leo Rivas. I'm going to hope that he comes up and he's just kind of that guy that figures it out. If I'm looking elsewhere in the trade market, I mean, we talked about he's on the IL right now. Rockies, Freeland. I think
Kyle Freeland,
left-handed
yeah.
pitcher, stud. I mean, I look at his stats and it's like his stats don't look good, but you know what? He's also pitching in Colorado. That's a hard place to be. And he actually had a year where he had under 3 ERA. I think it was a few years ago. I think probably 7 years ago. I think it was about 7 years ago. But 17-7, a 2.7 ERA. That's insane for Colorado. I mean, I'd love to go make sure I have that number, and you're right, but I want him. I'd love to have him.
I would say you're on the correct path of guys that can revive a career pitching wise, not hitting, for the love of God, not hitting, but pitching would be Mariners one that could come in and at least attempt to revive their career, or the Rays. I think the Rays, we've seen Charlie Morton go to the Rays and just kind of kickstart his career, back over and everything like that. The Rays have just done a phenomenal job. What's that?
I think he re-kicked it with the Braves. He went from the Astros to the Braves, and then
I think it. Let me fact check myself here, because I want to say it was the Rays where he finally got it kickstarted in the right direction, and then he took it to the Braves, and then kind of from there and everything. But it was actually, Houston. He wasn't bad. He was in Houston. We'll take a look here. Just kind of.
I thought he went to Houston, and that's where he really got himself going, and then he went to Atlanta, and then really hit it.
Yeah, it was Houston, and then Tampa. Tampa, he kind of made that resurgence as so here in Houston, he had the 3.13 ERA, he had the 167 innings. By all means, a very, very good year. And then boom, goes to the Tampa Bay Rays, has an extra 30 innings almost, a 3.05 ERA. WHIP was just above a 1. And then the strikeouts, holy smokes, he went to 240 strikeouts that year. So that's what I remember, as I remember him going to Tampa Bay and just having that just absolutely incredible year. And then the next year it was, I think 2020, it was 2020. So nobody pitched a whole lot that year and everything, but that was one of the ones I can think of and everything like that. Fritz wanted to get your thing. Yes. Is Donovan Solano back like he never left? He's never been a Mariner, and he's never been successful as a Mariner, but man, is he doing well now. Yes. I guess just because the question has been posed to us, Kyle, what's your thoughts on Donovan Solano, where he's been the last 15 games? I think he's at a 120 plus WRC plus. He's killing it right now. What are your thoughts on Donovan Solano currently? I know I just threw a curveball to you, so no worries.
No, I already have it. I'm still thinking about the previous question of Ryan O'Hearn would be a guy I'd love to have in our lineup.
Oh, right. Yeah. Ryan O'Hearn is definitely a guy.
So again, I'd love to have that. But if we're looking at Donovan Solano going into the year, statistically speaking, he was a better DH, which is a problem because we have other guys who are better hitters than Solano. But in terms of his splits, he was a better hitter as a DH. So you go to first base, and it's okay. You're throwing to a guy that's 5'8", probably doesn't have a huge wingspan. I look at it from a bigger perspective of, okay, as a hitter, he's a 280. I think he's a career 280 plus hitter. I mean, that's good, right? Now, again, if you look at probably the amount of at-bats he gets a year, it's not a ton, so he's more of that platoon guy, which is perfect. I think now he's actually in that role. He might thrive. And I think we're maybe seeing a little bit of that now, which is probably why we saw the release of Tellez. Is, hey, this guy we've now got him. We've now got a sample size of him as a platoon player, and now we're seeing what we essentially paid $4.5 million, or was it 3.5? I think $3.5 million for. And so maybe they're like, okay, let's see how this goes. But ultimately, you kind of look at He's 37 years old. Is that going to be sustainable in the field? Yeah, he's probably got a good glove, but I mean, honestly, at the beginning of the season, you were thinking he was maybe your second baseman. He's also 5'8". Like you just got rid of Tellez, who was an absolute, 6'5", 6'4" guy that you could probably throw it, 5 feet left or right, and the guy wouldn't move. So it's, you want to hope that Solano's a guy that, can hit closer to that 280 number. He probably won't get to it, but if he gets that 280 number, great. Infield, you hope everyone throws a perfect ball over to first base. But again, I was excited when we signed him, right? To be kind of that, he was going to be kind of a spot guy. That was kind of the idea. So hopefully we put him back on that role and we see what happens. But it's, you just kind of sit there and go, I wish there was something else. And I don't mean that negatively.
Yeah.
It's just like, I wish there was something a little bit more.
And that's to Fritz's point. He was saying, "Are there any other options?" I think he's back by default, which, yeah, and right now, kind of right in the hot hand is where I'm at. Is he's doing well? He's hitting. He shouldn't. In my honest opinion, he shouldn't have been here today. Like I figured after the first month, it would have been kind of that AJ Pollock type deal where we're like, hey man, like, this big experiment's over. He's 37 years old. He's not hitting in Seattle. Weird. It's just one of those things where you just kind of move on and try and hope you can get that $3.5 million back however you can. But now that he is hitting, yeah, it's a little bit of default, and you're going to ride this wave in my opinion, you're going to ride this wave as long as you can. But it's one of those things where I'm not looking at September and thinking Donovan Solano's still on the roster, or I'm not 100% on it, I should say, because could he still be on the roster in September? Absolutely. I'm not going to sit here and say there's no chance. I'm going to say there's a chance that he's not on the roster in September. If you want to be a competitive team, I'll combat it with that. If you want to be a team that's competing for a roster or for a playoff spot, then the other side of that argument, and I'll just go ahead and say it, the other side of that argument is, let's say he wipes the slate clean and we start everything in the month of June. And it's just from June on, and he's that 280 hitter. He's going to have a slump, right? Like he's not going to be this 120 WRC plus every week, every game that you see him in. He's not going to have a multi-hit game. It's just not possible. But from the month of June on, you take the first 2 months and you throw him away. And you just look at June through the end of September, and he's a 280 hitter. He plays to the back of his baseball card. Then yeah, he was worth a lot, probably. Because when is he hitting, or is he hitting when we're up 9-2, 9-3, 9-4? If he's hitting then, it's cool, but no one cares. That's why I loved having Rowdy Tellez. He was hitting when you needed him to. He was hitting to he had a home run to take the lead. He had a home run that can give you a chance to get back in the ball game late in the game. That was the difference for me between the two. And again, I'm not anti Donovan Solano. It's all pro Rowdy Tellez. And right now I'm still pro Donovan Solano. He's earned it. It's kind of his ball to take away. I'm not sitting here saying I hope he fails. I'm just glad that he's now I'm glad that he is now he's now here. I'm glad he's now with us. I'm glad he's now doing what we thought he could do when we first got him. When we first got him, I was excited. Yeah, go ahead.
And I think that's what I think people like. Anything we say from we talk about is never negative. I mean, it sounds negative, but it's more in the sense of like, okay, like I said, I was excited when we signed Solano because you look at his numbers and it's like, okay, this dude plays. Maybe he just needs the opportunity. Well, then you kind of go, okay, maybe he's he's a guy he fits better in that platoon role. Maybe that's just the way it's like Cal Raleigh. I mean, we give Cal Raleigh a day off and he goes from MVP candidate to, is he on the team? I know that's completely off base, but you kind of look at the difference. And then you go, you give a couple days, and it's like, oh, now he's back to himself. You finally gave him, what he needed, and um, so it's just what you signed him up for, what he's doing, what, and I'm trying to think of the right. My lights just turned on. Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
But too much to think about. I think with Solano, I want him to do
You'll
what
want
he's
him to
done
succeed.
historically. I just want him to succeed,
Yeah.
right? And if
Yeah,
there
we
was
all
a
want him
better
to
option,
succeed.
I'd love it.
I don't
But
even through his unsuccess, like even when I was like, hey, like it's time to move forward, that was me not being pessimistic and saying that there's no chance he can get better. That was me sort of just saying, hey, like you're not winning as many ball games as you could if you had Leo Rivas, if you had somebody else that was in the lineup helping you out, and you'll figure out everything else in the meantime. Hit, and you'll figure out the defensive stuff. Right now, I think they operate with, hey, we need defensive match. We need a defensive team, and then we need matchups lefty and righty, and then we'll figure out the lineup. Right now, I'm just like, hey, put the best 9 hitters in the lineup and see what happens. I think if you make errors in the outfield, sure, it could cost you a game, but I think the lineup will help eventually, take it over from a hitting perspective. That's honestly how I think about it.
So I think the last question I'd have is, we talked about internally, externally. If there is someone you could pick up today and realistic, who would that be, and what would you give up for?
I apologize, you cut out there. What was that?
I'm sorry. If there's one player you think that we could add here at the deadline that's realistic, right? Like, I'm not saying, oh, we could add like an Aaron Judge, but like if there's someone you could add here, who would that be, and what would you think is realistically the other half of that deal from our end?
Ty and I actually had this conversation earlier today.
And welcome, Ty.
And Ty is in. Ty and I had a conversation today. Brian Reynolds, I doubt he's on the table for the Pirates, but Brian Reynolds it sounds a lot. It sounds very good. IKF was another one we talked about, but we also talked about Brian Reynolds. Yeah, I really like IKF because I don't think he's going to be a lot to package in. We talked about a potential Dylan Moore, situation where we wrap that all up. But if you were to go straight up Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, let's just pull up his stats, see where he's at right now, and see what the value kind of just kind of looks like. Let's go ahead and pull him up here. Boom, bang, pow. Go ahead and pull him up. This year, batting 288, slashing 288, 333, 358 for kind of a non-existent Pirates team. He's already at a 1.2 WAR. He's got just 1 home run. He's so much a Jerry guy. Look at these numbers. Now the strikeouts to walk ratio isn't 100% Jerry, but he's also on a pretty bad Pirates team this year. And yeah, I guess historically he doesn't always produce on the strikeout to walk ratio, but I'm willing to look past that. If he does this, just these 3 numbers right here, 288, 333, 358. Yeah, I'm okay with that. What does that look like in a trade? What prospects, what are they getting IKF for? Infield versatility. Yeah, it'd be infield versatility. Right now, I'm just looking at the bat. What's going to help out this lineup? What's going to help turn this lineup over? What's going to help out this lineup? We'll figure out where he plays in the meantime. Again, in one of these scenarios, Dylan Moore potentially gets shipped off. So now it's IKF and it's potentially Leo Rivas fighting for the same spot. But we're saying we got IKF in this scenario. So in this scenario, IKF for probably Man, yeah, it's a tough one right now because he is kind of doing well, and the Pirates are probably looking to capitalize because the GM, the GM's just being handcuffed by the ownership and everything, so he's probably looking to get the overpayment on it. I would say, looking at our top prospects, you could probably get him for maybe Michael Arroyo, and I probably wouldn't go. And it would probably just be straight up Michael Arroyo for him, and that would be probably all I would try and get for him. So yeah, adding Baraki to the deal. Yeah, Dollard's another one. I hope he comes back. I know he had the outing. We were talking about him last week, and seeing him get back on the field and everything. IKF and Baraki to add to the left-handed, the lack of left-handed pitchers that we have. So Baraki and IKF. Yeah, you're probably looking at two okay prospects. You're looking at a Michael Arroyo and Michael Morales, maybe. Something in that wheelhouse where you're looking at guys that are looking to make that move up. They probably want not just two hitters, but maybe a hitter and a pitcher in that scenario. Yeah, his WRC plus is only 15 points higher. I guess he could be an all right addition. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm looking for a hitter. Defensively, it's just one of those things where I don't know where you put him. I can't confidently say you get IKF and he's your second baseman. Oh, he's your third baseman. It's more of just the bat and putting him in the lineup and just being able to lock it in with that and everything. Sloan, Ford, and Locklear. I'm sorry, I'm getting back through all the comments and everything. Looking through all that. The Brian Reynolds deal. Yeah. Sloan, Ford, and Locklear. Yeah. I wonder if I think it would be an overpay to get Brian Reynolds just because of what he means to the organization. And there was probably talk of him being in a trade conversation last year and nothing got done, probably because they really like Brian Reynolds. And I do too. I would love to have Brian Reynolds. Kyle, any thoughts on what Isaiah Kiner-Falefa with these numbers? What does he look like coming in? What does he do on that end? And if you're not there, no worries.
I am. I'm sorry, I was moving
inside. You're good.
It got too cold.
You're good.
I think I forgot who mentioned kind of the pressure on Ben. I think it was Ty that mentioned that. Yeah, the pressure on Williamson. Yeah. I mean, that's the hard part with IKF is, is that a bad thing? Because then it's like, okay, where do you put him, right? Is he a first baseman? Or do you put him at third base because that's just traditionally he's play on that side of the infield? Does it put, now is Ben feeling the heat, right? Again, they're professionals. That's what they're supposed to do. But I guess another thought was, what about Polanco moving over to to the first base? What would that cause? That's
if we're already putting 5'8" guys over there, why not have him start working with Perry Hill right now? That way, but before this trade gets sent off, at least he has versatility to play first. We don't have a very good defensive first baseman, so I'm not too worried about putting somebody else over there. We didn't expect the world from Ty France. It's a teachable position. It's not easy. I think we've all seen Moneyball. It's not easy, but it's a teachable position versus just expecting somebody to go in the outfield and just be fast, right? Because you expect your outfielders to have speed. You expect them to have good reaction skills. First base, you expect them to pick it well and expect them to know their footwork around the bag and just have good, I guess, reactionary skills. Just surrounding first base. So it's teachable. Mid-season, it's not as easy, but if we're talking about just throwing guys over there, he's not 100%, off the wall there. Yeah, no, I think Rayleigh moving forward is our first base. I think you hit the nail on the head there. Again, I will combat it with saying he is a damn good outfielder, and he's probably the best option for right field that we have currently. If Robles was back, it would be a no brainer. But honestly, I think he rivals Randy Rosarena defensively for an outfield spot. I think he does a pretty good job in the outfield. So Rayleigh playing first base just makes it. Yeah, I think it makes the most sense with what you currently have. If you were to have other options, if you had, let's say, a Pete Alonso, that would have been a nice friggin' addition over the off season. If you had Pete Alonso, it can kind of open up that door. Now Canzone is looking at your DH and just spot hitting, and you have Polanco just kind of being the full-time DH, sparing at second base whenever he has to, and doing on that end and everything. Yeah, any deals that you see getting done from any other teams on your end?
Man,
I know Luis Robert was being thrown around. I wasn't sure if you had that on your radar.
no, I mean, I laugh because I think about this offseason. We're talking about like what trades would be really good. And you talked about the Baltimore Orioles and two guys, Kobe Mayo, and yeah, we might have to eat the Rhino Hearn deal, which right now looks like an absolute steal. That deal today. You think Kobe Mayo? I mean, I think of Kobe Mayo as kind of is Toro right now for the Orioles. He's kind of that guy that's log jammed, can't get himself into the lineup because you're dealing with guys like Jackson Holiday. You've got Gunnar Henderson. He's stuck, and it's like, hey, we'll take this guy, and hey, by the way, we'll take your first baseman as well, and let's make a deal. Hey, we'll give you Locklear, we'll give you Dylan Moore, your utility guy. We'll eat Ryan O'Hearn's money because I know you guys seem to be strapped for cash. Obviously, you're going to add more, right? Because he's a 300 plus hitter right now, so there's obviously some value into that. Kobe Mayo, I think, could be an absolute stud for us. And where that is, I don't know. Could he move? Could he shift? Kind of that. Is he going to be that third and first guy? Could he play more of the middle infield? I think, has he played much second base, or has he been traditionally a third baseman? I'm not sure. I have to ask, but I just know from what, statistically from what I've seen as a bat, the guy can play. The guy can swing a bat. So it's like, hey, give me him, give me Ryan O'Hearn. I'll take the money. I'll give you this, and we call it a day. And I think his bat alone, I think would be a massive impact for what we need right now.
Yeah, and I gotta agree. I understand you got Luke Rayleigh back, and that there's power being added back while losing Tellez. But I think the one thing that could separate you at this point, because you have a plethora in your system already, you have a plethora of those guys that are supposed to be contact guys, that are supposed to be, high OBP guys, and you're just not getting a lot of that. I think the one thing that can help you right now is extra power, and Ryan O'Hearn adds that. I think O'Hearn could be probably the better move. Considering again, we will go and die on this hill. There's too many teams that are in the hunt right now. So it's just hard to say a month from now, a month and some change, who's going to be out of it. And honestly, the Mariners could be out of it in a month from now. I'm not trying to, again, pessimistic, not pessimistic, realistic. A month from now, we could be saying, hey, like, who are we shipping off? Is it time to ship off Luis Castillo? Is it time to ship off Dylan Moore for sure? Is it time to, get rid of Mitch Garver for anybody who wants him? It's a month from now, we could be having a completely different conversation. But as of right now, everyone's still trying to figure out who's who, what's going on. This Kyle, I think a package headline by
I brought up my off.
Okay, here we go. Yep.
My great white buffalo. I wanted Xavier Edwards. I still want Xavier Edwards. Just because of his versatility. I mean, you could put him at either shortstop, you can put him at second base, he can play center field. It's a great bat. I think I'm trying to, but I don't right now with Xavier Edwards. I don't think a middle infielders are issue. I think Cole Young. I want to give him the opportunity because you see what he can do, and the guy is a living, breathing back end of your lineup guy. He's going to get on base, and I'm good. I want to see him develop. I think he's there. So I love Xavier, but I'd rather focus on a first baseman. So if the Marlins have one, I'll take. I'd like to consider it, but I just think now we've brought Cole Young up. You got to give him the opportunity.
Yeah, and I would love to have Xavier Edwards. Sure, yeah, they might be. This was definitely more hypothetical. I'm just saying, would the value kind of match the value? Yeah, it would be in the conversation. Because I mean, well, Xavier Edwards is also kind of pushing himself back in the right direction. I'll pull his stats up just so we have an idea on where he's at with everything. I do know this because I picked him up in I have a couple fantasy leagues, but I picked him up in one of my fantasy leagues because he was actually starting to do kind of well recently.
285, no home runs, 15 ribbies. I think he was hurt with a 675 OPS. So
maybe this is counting today's 289, 358, 323 slugging. So the slugging, the slugging's it is where it is where it is.
He's not gonna hit you bombs.
But having the 70 to 80, points plus in OBP is huge. And that's kind of what he's been known for. High OBP guy. The strikeout to walk ratio isn't exactly, you would hope it was a little bit more favored in the walk category, but all right, it is what it is. He's still
that's why Cole Young, in my opinion, just give him an opportunity because he has that. He's got the OBP. He's just and I think he'll be a good hitter. I think we just got to give him time to adjust. And I think you think about Ben Williamson, people want his head. They still do. The guy is hitting 250. In our lineup, I have to go back and look at ranking, but that's got to be top 5, maybe a little bit, maybe top 6. I mean,
yeah,
I'm not going to completely run that guy out of here for a 250 hitter. So, I mean, Tellez was a 206, 204.
I think it's 203. Yeah.
203. So, and I think Cole Young right now is sitting at 230. Give these guys a chance. No one says these guys were going to be superstars. We didn't expect them to be superstars. So, I mean, you're expecting Aaron Judge numbers. That's not what these guys are. I hope these guys are career 260 plus hitters.
Speaking of Williamson, and speaking of, because you and I brought this up, especially regarding Williamson, he's going to hit a slump. Deal with the slump. He's a freaking rookie. He's gonna hit a slump. And also knowing this, if you saw any historical data, you'd understand that he's not a home run hitter. Which it sucks because we have a lot of those guys. We have a lot of guys that don't put the ball over the fence, which is why I was anti-losing Rowdy Tellez. And I know I've said that probably 3 or 4 times tonight on the stream. But still, it's because that's Jerry's guys. Jerry doesn't like getting a lot of guys that hit the long ball. And if you noticed if you look at his draft trends, he likes vanilla. He likes vanilla, but stuff. He likes on base. He likes OBP. He likes OBP. He likes strikeout to walk ratio. He doesn't care necessarily about the long ball. I think he feels like he got hurt over it with Kyle Lewis. I think he made the great decision to get Kyle Lewis in that 2016 draft, and it was his first draft as a Mariner, being with the Mariners. And I think he knocked that one out of the park, pun intended. But Kyle Lewis ended up becoming a Rookie of the Year, granted in a abbreviated 2020 year. But had he never gotten the big injury, I think Kyle Lewis could have been somebody that was really good. But the players that he gets are not going to put the ball over the fence. So we got to find them somehow. Because we're not getting it from Julio. We're not getting it from a Rosarena, which, again, I'm not going to sit here and berate Julio. Julio's been great in other areas. The fact that guy is your center fielder, you should still be okay with what he's doing. He's doing so good in center field, and he's still hitting, just not hitting the way we would hope that it would have progressed by now. But he'll either hit it or he won't, and this is either the Julio that you get forever, or we see an improvement on that end. But right now, we're more than okay with the way Julio's producing. It's got to be a team effort. But again, I go back
to Julio, right? Like,
yeah,
Brian Reynolds. Brian Reynolds is someone that the Mariners have talked about. The Mariner fans have talked about for, I would say, the last few years, right? What's his career numbers, right, as a center fielder? And where I'm getting at is, we had Julio as this generational talent, where Brian Reynolds didn't have that label. So, like, okay, let's say they're similarly in statistics, right? I would say Julio is a much better glove than Brian Reynolds in center field. But hitting-wise, let's say they're within 10 points of one another. Well, you're going to say, well, Brian Reynolds is really good. We know. But you treat Julio as like, you're trying to compare Julio to Ken Griffey, and he's not there. But because that's what you started with, again, you projected him to be Ken Griffey, you're expecting Ken Griffey. And it's like, no, if you just treat him as, hey, projections, it's like I make the joke of when you transfer from a community college to a four-year, because that's what I did. I went from so when I did that, sure, I had a 3.9 GPA, but when I got to Washington State, my GPA was 0. I didn't have anything, so it was a clean slate. Whatever I did after that was whatever I did. When you have these guys coming up through the trip, through the minor leagues, and you're expecting this great thing, okay, they've done that. But now let's give them let's get a first impression of them just as a player beyond the lofty expectations. And I think Julio is a really good player. Could he become that generational player that we've talked about? Absolutely. But if you had the same lens on him when he started as you did Brian Reynolds, you go, this dude's a stud. And I think that's the. I mean, he's making what? He's making $300 million to $400 million here in the next 10 years. So I mean, you can't get too. I feel sorry for you, but at the same time, like, I don't know. I look at it going like, he's done really damn well. It's just we're expecting him to be this whole other person.
And the fact that we've tried to compare him to Griffey, because that's the closest thing we can think of when it comes to that. It's let him progress the way he can progress. He's still helping you out a ton in other areas. He'll get there. Because I agree. It's dividing amongst Mariners fans because they're expecting 40 bombs, they're expecting 40 bags, they're expecting a 300 average, and it's just like the guy's still incredibly good. But I did want to attack the question of Duran. If you're talking about Jarren Duran, as much as I think I would love to have him in Seattle. Again, with his past, Jerry is a very vanilla guy. He does not like riot starters. He does not like fire. He does not like fire starters. He does not like riot makers. He doesn't like those types of guys. Look at Jesse Winker. He came in, and honestly, Jesse Winker, in my opinion, was a good thing for the team because it was different.
Absolutely,
it was a, hey, guys, wake up. We're doing this, and he stood up for his guys. When you saw the whole thing happen with Rizal Iglesias,
our favorite Angels,
bubblegum, but yeah, no, I agree. I think he needs to get moved out of Boston. But Jerry just, for whatever reason, doesn't like those fire starter type of guys. He doesn't like them. I believe you me, I've wanted Max Scherzer because he's an FU type of guy. We need that in Seattle. You need guys that can wake up the locker room. You need guys that are going to have each other's backs. But he tends to be very, very, very vanilla. Yeah, anti-loud. He's anti-loud. Yoshida, Let's see where Yoshida's at for the year. I don't know if Yoshida's
And I
worth.
don't want to. And I don't want to. I know we talked about it last week, but you talk about anti-loud, anti-noise. Who
Mhm.
is managing the ball club right now?
Yeah, somebody who
The
won't get
epitome of
tossed out
that.
for his players. Yeah.
That's the problem, because a Scherzer would be great, but why would you bring Scherzer in when your manager's like, I don't want the noise either? That's what
Yeah.
we're stuck.
So Yoshida's an interesting topic. I'll pull up his stats so you can kind of see what I'm hitting on here. But Yoshida's an interesting topic because he's doing well. And he's got 10 plus home runs, so he would 100% replace that category that we're kind of missing at the moment with Tellez gone. Or wait, sorry, this was 2024. What am I doing? This was last year, so we don't have anything updated still out. Don't know where we're at with Yoshida. Wouldn't, I guess, on the grand scheme, in 421 at bats, having 10 bombs, 580, 15 bombs, he doesn't help us out there. Here, yeah, we see some good numbers and stuff like that, but that's also Boston with the funky field. And I've had players that have played in Fenway. I've had players play for Boston. I have a former pitcher of mine that I used to help, Zach Kelly. He's with the Red Sox. He's told me he hates pitching in there because it's just a hitter's dream. Yeah, I think with him coming back soon, it depends on what they want. If they want anything more than like a prospect that's 20 to 30, I'm out. He costs way too much, and I'd rather go get somebody else, especially since he hasn't played this year. Man, you got nothing to work off of this year, and you're coming into Seattle as a hitter. Again, you could throw any number you want at me. You're coming into Seattle as a hitter. You're at a disadvantage already. It's tough to come into Seattle as an outsider and just hit right away, especially if you haven't played at all this year. So again,
Or if you're
I'm not
expected to have
discrediting.
power.
Yeah, and I'm not discrediting the idea. Is Yoshida a bad fit? No, but is it the right fit? It's a different story because you got to make this one count, especially if it's going to cost you money. You
And if
have to
it's a
make this one
one,
count.
and if it's one person, like that's the problem. If it's one person,
Yeah. We got Cameron in the house. Sorry, I was looking at the stats. I didn't even see you're down there. We got three Cougs in the house, baby. What's going on, Cam?
What's up,
We are
Gavin?
back.
Thanks for having
We are
me.
so back. Of course, dude, always. Yeah, we are so back. A 9-4 win tonight. I guess we'll take a break from what we were talking about and just kind of pivot over to you. What are your thoughts on today, Mariners situation, where they're at? What are your thoughts?
Well, first, I'll say that I actually didn't get the chance to watch pretty much all the game today.
It was a sucky 11 a.m.
11
game.
a.m. on a Friday is crazy. I get that's the whole Cubs tradition thing, but I mean, I was box scoring it throughout the game while at work. But I mean, Cal Raleigh just continues to do it. 29 home runs is crazy. I was at the Mariners game on Saturday against the Red Sox when we won 8-0. I think that was Saturday. So Cal homered, grand slam. They were 6 RBIs. And like you guys, I was watching earlier, you guys said how it looked like Cal was like in a funk a little bit in the Cleveland series, and you thought he was going to start cooling down. And then he has the 6 RBI game there. And then today he had 4 RBIs and 3 hits. So I don't think he'll be slowing down, but yeah, he keeps going off. It's crazy to have this many home runs in June. So yeah,
we were talking about it. What's your thoughts on we probably like 2 or 3 weeks ago when we had one of our last Friday Night Lives, we were talking about, okay, what's the possibility of him actually beating out Salvi Perez with 48 bombs as a catcher? And I was like, I just don't see it happening. I think he's going to hit a slump, and it's going to happen at some point. Now, I will eat my words. I think he's on pace to hit 50 and stay 50 plus, and he has the chance to do something even more incredible. What are your thoughts on that part?
The 48 kind of feels like a lock at this point, right? I mean, he's 1 away from 30, or he could have 30 tomorrow, and it'd be June 21st. So that feels like a lock. I think he's on pace. Yeah, I think he might be on pace for 64, 65. which would beat Judge's record too.
Yeah.
So I think he's got, I would say the 48, if he stays healthy throughout the year, I think he'll have that locked in. I have no idea where he'll finish though from that. I mean, 50 is like the number I have in mind. Like anything over 50, I'm like, yeah, like you get 51, 52. I don't think he'll get 60 quite there. I mean, that's just an insane amount. But I'll say he settles around in the 50s, low 50s.
And we've seen it in the past. Guys hit that 40 mark, guys hit that 45 mark, guys hit that 50 mark, and things start to slow down. And it's just the nature of the game. So I think 48, to your point, is kind of a lock. I think he's in there. Again, realistic, not pessimistic. Don't want to speak it into existence, but barring any injuries and barring any setbacks or anything like that, yeah, I think 48 to 50 is a fairly respectable number, and I think anything above 50 is a plus. But yeah, I just I completely changed my tune from 2 weeks ago. I think he's absolutely on that pace. Do you think the torpedo bat has anything to do with it? And I'm not saying the torpedo bat is a magic bat. I'm just saying like it's centered his barrel where it needs to be. And do you think that the torpedo bat has anything to do with it?
Maybe. I don't definitively know. One thing I want to say on that, though, is because he only uses it from the left side. He doesn't use the torpedo bat when he hits from the right side. And historically, his right side's been a lot weaker than his left. But I think this year it's basically even. I think he still has 1,000 OPS from the right side. I mean, today you saw 2 home runs from the right side. So I think that's probably a bigger factor here, is that he's not just a guy who's insane from the left, and like he still had some power from the right, but he was like way more swing and miss, a lot less average. He's doing it from both sides with tons of power. So I think that plays into it a bit more, that he can even out his power on both sides. He doesn't really have a weakness right now.
Yeah, I'm having trouble finding where his weak part of the game at the plate is, because even over the past couple of years he's been hitting bombs, but he's had a lot of strikeouts and he's at a low batting average, and now it's just like, okay, like a lot of things have been figured out. I did want to pose the question to you: if he's doing this with that bat, and granted it's only from one side of the plate, is it worth it for any of the other guys to just give it a shot? Like, what's the worst thing that can happen? What's the worst? You go and bet 200 over the next 2 weeks trying out this new bat. And again, I somebody who played the game, I'm superstitious. And when somebody was using, I remember to this day, we used the bat called Black Magic. That was the name of the bat, and it was just the Black Magic bat was on fire for years, and then it became 777. 777 was like another bat, and then it became Stealth, and that was just you're muted.
Red Stealth.
Yes, the Red Stealth. But the Black Magic bat, everybody. So once one person hit a home run, we would start using that bat. Now I'm not saying everybody has to use the exact same Cal Raleigh bat, but just to give it a shot, like what's the worst that can happen? You don't do well for 2 weeks and then you go back to your regular bat. I don't know. The same thing came out with Axe Bat, and I used to work at Axe Bat. Guys would just start swinging that. Nelson Cruz came in the office and he just started swinging it in batting practice, and he was like, okay, yeah, I could see how this could fit. And then he started using it in games, and then we started seeing home runs, and then 40 plus bombs later, we're like, okay, the Axe Bat works for Nelson Cruz. All I'm saying is the torpedo bat has absolutely done wonders for the Yankees, and it's done wonders for the one guy that's using it right now. Worth taking a shot. It
comes down to how you swing. I think it just comes down to how you swing. So from the right side, because to your point, I was sitting there going, I remember hearing an article from Big Dump a few years ago. It says, I am a catcher hitting second. And I go, that's kind of hard to believe when you're a switch hitting catcher, when you say that hitting a second, when yet you have to practice from 2 sides. So again, as a workaholic, quite frankly, I think he should never take a day off, because we saw what happens when he takes a day off. But from the right side, it seems like maybe he's slightly, how his timing is, maybe he tries to be more ahead or react quicker. So having that barrel slightly down the bat is so he's not changing his approach. He's just his sweet spot's a little bit better. So where he was getting more, sawed off, is now he's hitting the sweet spot. So to me, it's use it to your advantage. I know I'm naturally ahead of where I should be. I'm not going to change anything. I'm just going to have someone build me a bat that moves the barrel down 2 inches, and now the ball that I should have hit weakly is now an absolute shot. So I'm all about the torpedo bat if it, you just don't change your approach. I don't know.
He did homer on the very first swing, I remember, against Texas with the torpedo bat when he got it. So it does have some magic in it. Is he the only one to use it, though? I think he is, right, on our team.
I bet there's got to be more guys. Maybe we just
I feel like it. We just haven't thought of it. But
I've seen guys I play in adult baseball league. I have guys that use it, and I've seen some balls they hit. They go, "Damn, that looks pretty good," and we just joke, "Is it torpedo bat or whatever?" And it's it's a superstition. Maybe at some point, maybe you think it makes you better, and as a result, it makes you better. So whatever works. And for Cal Raleigh, at this point, do whatever you want to do because you're killing it. And I look at Cal Raleigh and his home run numbers. I'd say, hey, whatever you put up in the first half, if you cut by 50%, that's maybe like the ceiling, or sorry, the floor. So if you can hit 32 home runs, okay, that's 16. That puts you at 48 if you were to hit 50% less than what you did in the first half. And so, I think what he does towards the end of the All-Star break gives us an idea of where his potential floor is. I'd be curious to know what that is. Like, hey, if a guy hit this many within the first half, what did he end up with in the second half? And what's the percentage of that? Just to say, okay, on average, most guys hit, because again, it's a whole season, right? Guys are tired. There's a lot going on. So he's not going to have the same juice he has in the first half. So I'd be curious what that percentage of drop off is. And, that probably could give you the Cal Raleigh number. Gavin, welcome back.
Yeah. Glad to be back. Sorry. My kid was losing his mind. He, I got my monitor that shows, him in there and everything. And whenever he rolls and he hits his head, he's done, and he's got to wake up, and he's just not mad, or he's just not happy. So yeah, my apologies. I had to step away and make sure he was all right. But you're talking about the rest of the year and what that looks like with Cal. Is that kind of where I left off?
Ebbs and flows.
Yeah, ebbs and flows. But wanted to get to a couple of comments I saw in here as well. Julio doesn't want to use the torpedo bat. Yeah, I understand that. There's guys that are just not going to use it. But right now, listen, I'm no hitting instructor, and Julio is a great player, and I'm not going to try and talk down on him. But Julio isn't playing as good as he could be playing, so maybe give it a shot and just see what happens. Obviously, it's working wonders for a lot of guys. Again, it can't get much worse, right? Like if we look at Julio's hot zone, he's really only hitting balls down the middle. He's not doing well in all the other quadrants of the plate. So maybe shifting the barrel just a little bit more in, maybe it makes it easier. Or maybe his swing is just that bad right now. Because slider away and a two-seam in, which seems to be most of everybody's way of attacking him. Up and in, or and just he can't hit the two-seam in. It's tough. It's tough for him to do that. So until he can make those adjustments, that's kind of my thoughts on it and everything. Cam, wanted to get to you and just kind of moving through to the trade deadline and everything. What are your kind of expectations with everybody is so kind of locked into potentially making a playoff. There's so many teams that are just kind of in it right now. So as we move towards the trade deadlines, what are your thoughts with the Mariners positioning and what they can do to better themselves?
Yeah, look, everything with the trade deadline, how it's worked has changed since 2022, since they added that third wild card. It's going to be a seller's market every single year until that's not when that's a thing with the third wild card, because there's going to be so many more teams that are within a game or two, like us right now when we're hovering around 500, just over, and then the teams below us, like everyone's still in the mix of the wild card. So that's always going to create a seller's market. And as for what the Mariners will do, I think that whatever they do from here until a little after the All-Star break is pretty much will define the season, because they'll see how they go after the trade deadline, whether to buy or sell. And it's also a tough stretch. We got the Cubs, Twins, and then I think they play the Tigers, Yankees back-to-back, either before the All-Star break, leading into it, I think. So they'll have to play well right now to get into it. But as for buying or selling, I have no idea as of right now. I would love them to buy regardless, but if they're 5 or 6 games below 500 by the trade deadline and they're 3 or 4 back of the wild card and a bunch of teams in front of us, it's hard to justify that ownership will let Jerry go out and try to buy, even though it all makes sense to buy, even for next year if you're going to buy. But some guys I've had in mind, I think first base / DH, probably mainly first base though, because you have Polanco. DH is probably the best spot to upgrade. I mean, having a platoon at first isn't that fun, even though Solano has been pretty good recently, but we get a everyday first baseman. I think Josh Naylor is a guy at the top of my list. I wanted him in the offseason. Super fun guy. And the Diamondbacks, similar to the Mariners, have been they've been more consistently mediocre, I would say. I mean, they're right at 500, I think, right now. So we'll see on them. Ryan O'Hearn is a similar guy, having a career year on the Orioles. He will definitely be sold to someone. The Orioles are done. So hopefully we get Ryan O'Hearn. Suarez, of course, which would be funny to just reacquire him for Jared to do. But
I wanted to ask that question though. Could you take a Suarez at first
Suarez
base?
and Naylor? Or Suarez and Naylor in the same, because they're both rentals, so it wouldn't be an astronomical package. But I don't know. I think that would be insane to do both of them together. I thought about doing that. I would also think a high leverage reliever is at the top of their list as well. I mean, they got a lot of decent middle relievers, but I think having another high leverage guy in there to help out Munoz and help out Brash and Spire could do wonders for him. Similar to the Jimmy Garcia trade that was last trade deadline that didn't work out, but the process of it was good. I mean, he was a high leverage guy they got for a rental. There's guys like that every trade deadline. So if the Mariners are in a position to buy, I think first base, they target that. Get a guy like Naylor, O'Hearn. Maybe they look at third base. We'll see what the outfield looks like. I mean, it's healthy right now with Rayleigh back, so maybe you look elsewhere, and then definitely get a high leverage reliever if you're in a spot to buy. But on the other hand, I'll touch on the selling real quick. That if they're selling,
Will, what does that look like?
I think they'd become probably the best team to sell when you think about it. I mean, if you think about all the guys they could have available, they probably could have the best offensive hitter available, JP Crawford, if he keeps hitting like this, because he only has a year left of club control after next year. So end of 26, he's a free agent. So if they are in a seller's position, they should probably listen to offers on him, even though he's a fan favorite and we all love him, but should make him available. Munoz is another guy that would get you such a big package, even though that would also suck to trade. And then maybe if Luis Castillo, they re-engage with trade talks there, but also guys like Gabe Spire, Matt Brash, any reliever they have could be expendable if they're in a position to sell. But I think they'd be in a great spot either way. If they're going to be buying, they have the best farm system in baseball, one of the best farm systems. So any guy that they could go after, they have the best chance of beating any team out for a package. And then if they want to sell, they have tons of guys. Randy is another guy I forgot. But yeah, Randy, I think next year is his last year. So Randy would be a guy to sell as well. So they'll be in a good spot either way, but we'll see how they play in the next 20-ish games that pretty much decide what they do. So
yeah, we talked about a month from now, we could be having a completely different conversation revolving around sellers and what does that look like. And I think, Randy, and I know Ryan Divish made a point in the offseason. Randy's not off the table for a trade. If they don't feel like they're in a spot, Randy's probably going to be one of the first off the table because he's going to be in that 15+ million range. And so they're looking to get that money back for sure. I will say for the first time under the Jerry regime, the ownership has said that they're willing to spend this trade deadline, which is interesting. And I won't believe it until I see it.
What concerns me is when they said it. You think
Yeah,
about it was a couple weeks ago we were really high. Oh, we'll spend. So now when we come here, I just feel like I'm a little concerned on that comment on when they said the comment.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll believe it again. I will believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
You got to win me over on that one first, because there's been a lot of lies told in the past, like, oh, we're going to be competitive in 2023, 2024, 2025. And that was in the rebuild in 2018, 2019 era. And then you actually had, and we'll spend then. They actually said that we will spend when our rebuild kind of reboots itself in that 23 to 25 range. Well, we hit that, and we hit that pretty hard. We could have capitalized off of that 2022 season where we actually made it to the second round of the playoffs and made it out of, that wild card round and everything, but they didn't. And so it's like, I get it. COVID hurt everybody, man. I get it. COVID was a tough one. But here we are. It's time to put the foot on the gas pedal, because other teams are, and you're not. You have an opportunity to do something right now. You have a rotation that is still coming back from injury, and we're not fully healthy at the moment, but you have a rotation given from God. You don't get this rotation very often. So don't tarnish it. Don't put it down. Don't give it a bad name. Like even the A's made the playoffs. They didn't do anything with it, but at least they made the playoffs. And it's funny, I always reference Moneyball. It's one of my favorite movies. But that 2002 year where they ended up, coming all the way back up and beating the Seattle Mariners and going to the playoffs. And yes, they lost. But you have a just stellar pitching that you can build around and actually do something with. Again, I'll say it again. We don't have all the pieces right now, and we're still waiting to see what Logan Gilbert and George Kirby come back from this injury like. But you have a lot of pieces to really work with, and that's adding at this trade deadline makes more sense than selling. But if you get in that selling mode, if we're a month away from now and we haven't won more than 3 games, yeah, it's selling mode. And what does that look like? Selling JP Crawford is probably at the top of that list, along with Randy. Testing our bullpen. I know Brash would be I'd be curious I would be curious to see what the market looks like for a Matt Brash. I think there's somebody that would absolutely love getting a Matt Brash and just seeing what that looks like. Yeah, Hancock would be probably at the top of that because of his controllability. He still has 3 or 4 years left of control. So there's just a lot of pieces that could go seller or buyer. You're in a good spot, and you have one of the best farm systems, and you have the number 3, the number 35. Yeah, I think you have 4 picks within the top 100 in this upcoming draft. And one thing I pride myself on is I watch college baseball. Like, that's one of my things. And then the draft that's my Christmas. And so this draft there's no Paul Skeens and there's no like top tier player like that in this draft. There could be, but there's none that are coming into this draft. But rounds 2 through 5 are just the most lucrative rounds 2 through 5 that I've seen in a long time. You're going to see guys like Jared Spencer, who got shut down, who was a elite left-handed pitcher at Texas, go in probably the round in second or third round and still be a really, really good pick, 3-4 years from now. You're going to see guys like Joseph Zirwa out of Michigan State, who, wasn't really a whole lot to talk about, who could really, really turn the needle move the needle in this draft. And he might not even go until the 3rd or 4th round. There's just a lot of really good draft pieces, which heads up in the next 2 weeks. I got Toby Schulman, Will Massa from Overdue Sports, and Nate Rasmussen, who was just at the MLB Draft Combine. We're going to be talking about the draft as well, which you guys are both invited to jump on that as well, to just talk MLB draft. But we got some professional guys that are involved in that. But that's what we like to do here up West Sports, is we like to talk not just Mariners baseball, but in the bigger scheme of things, what does that look like? And yes, go Shantz up. One of my best friends, Anthony Marks, was on the 2016 team that won the national championship. Did want to pull this up though, and just kind of switch topics real quick. We don't have to take a super long time on it, but it was brought up in our comments. So I just wanted to kind of get your guys' thoughts on this, because I've always been pro. Couch GM was the first, well, maybe not the first, but he was on it. A team in Portland. What are your guys' thoughts on if let's say everything's good and we end up Major League Baseball gets a team in Portland via expansion. We won't take anybody's team away like OKC did for the Sonics. But let's say there's a brand new expansion team, and yeah, go Pacers, by the way. Let's say there's an expansion team in Portland. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
It's expanding the brand of Major League Baseball. I don't see a problem with that. I mean, I don't think there's a problem. I mean, it makes the Northwest experience a little bit better. You know, you have an extra team to go to. It's not in Seattle. It's in Portland. Sounds good to me.
Saves us travel.
Stadium picture looks cool.
Yeah, there's only supposed to be, according to what they had said, I believe there's only, we'll open this up, seat size for this new stadium was only supposed to be like 32,000, which would have netted them like the 30th or 29th overall stadium. It would have been one of the smallest stadiums in the game and everything. So yeah, it right now it's not. It's a beautiful stadium, but it's not a big stadium. And granted, maybe it just fits the city. Portland's not a huge city, so maybe it just fits. It fits for the city that it's in. But I think it logistically it helps out the Seattle Mariners. It gives us a direct rival. I think it's not just oh, it's good. It's another team. I think it's great because the Mariners now have a direct rival. Yes, we're going to lose some fans because we have a lot of Oregon fans, but I think it gives us a direct rival. It's going to start selling out those home games when we play those Portland games. You know they're going to sell out. Everybody from Portland's going to be heading up to Seattle and vice versa. We're going to be heading down to Portland, and it's going to be an electric series. It's finally going to give us that. If you're a Seahawks fan, it's going to give us that rivalry with the Niners. It's going to give us that, in my opinion. That's what I think it's going to do. And it's going to help us out logistically. We're not going to have to travel. Finally, we're not going to have to travel all the way down to Oakland for our closest home game or for our closest game. So that's why I think it's awesome. It is huge for the game of baseball to add a team in Portland. We need another team in the West. We're already getting one in Vegas. I know Utah or Salt Lake City's on the map for a potential one. I think my two favorite cities besides Portland would be Nashville. I think that's my East Coast.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, I think Nashville.
The Braves, the South is such a big place for baseball, and then you think about it, it's like we only have the Atlanta Braves, the whole South's Braves fans, but you have all those other big college teams: Tennessee, Arkansas,
Vandy,
Alabama, Vandy. Yeah, so I think Nashville would be maybe at the top of my list, but I mean, you gave good reasons for Portland, so.
But I think about Portland. I think about the Portland Mavericks. I mean, I know it's that indie ball, and you think Kurt Russell's dad. I'm trying to think of his first name. Was it Bing Russell? It showed that Portland loves baseball. It just needs a team to kind of wrap themselves around. It could be, I love the idea, because if it's not, you think about the other sports, it was, if it's not Portland, then it's okay, we're up in Vancouver. Like stateside wise, this would be great. And I think in terms of gathering maybe a better fan base, all for it. I'd love Portland to have that because, again, it's a smaller market, but it's a dedicated market.
Yeah, and it's not just Portland. You get all of Oregon. All of Oregon's going to show up. If you've seen University of Oregon football play, that's kind of what that looks like. In my opinion, you're going to get Eugene. You're going to get all of that, and people that live in Eugene can now go to these games. I agree. The market, just Fritz, to your point, And I lived in Vancouver. I lived just across the border. I went to college at Western Oregon. I'm very familiar with Portland. Just looking at Portland through a vacuum, yeah, it's not a very big town comparative to the rest of the cities and everything. But if you factor in, you get everybody from Eugene, Salem, Corvallis, and just the eastern part of same way we look at Seattle, right? And like Seattle wasn't that big when we got a team. And the way that Seattle grew because of adding these teams, because of adding all this stuff. This is for Portland. This is what Portland can do, and it's tougher in 2025. I'm not gonna lie and kind of beat around the bush on that. It's tougher to do that in 2025 than it is in 1975 when we did it in Seattle. But it's comparative. It's at least comparative. And I just equate it, like, you see what happens at these University of Oregon football games. The fans are in the state of Oregon, and they will, they are diehards. So if you give them a team, yeah, they can do it. And you also see the Trailblazers when they're good. Now, granted, it's a fair weather town, just like Seattle can be, or was. It's now kind of surpassed that. We get fans even when we suck, which is awesome. I love it. We're giving our ownership money, but it's kind of one of those things. The other side of that argument is Vancouver. If you're going to add a team on the West, right? We already got Vegas, so Vancouver and Salt Lake, and what does that look like? And nothing against Salt Lake, I would vote for Vancouver again as a Mariners fan, and biasedly, I would want a team that's super close, or at least close enough to create that rivalry. But also, I'm tired of the damn Blue Jays fans coming down. And if you give Vancouver a team now that takes that deep royal blue out of our stadium, but also gives us a rivalry, and like there's still those Vancouver fans are going to be there for those series and everything. But at least they're not Blue Jays fans. At least it's another team that you can combat, and it also gives Canada two teams. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on West Coast expansion, what that looks like over there. But Nashville would probably be the number one spot to add it. Just looking, like, there's no team in New Orleans. That also surprises me. Like,
exactly.
Yeah, there's
and just the
no team in New
experience
Orleans.
for the fan would be top notch. It might be one of the best experiences for a fan in Major League Baseball. I mean, just, hey, I'm done with the game. What do I do next? I mean, that's hard to come by.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we covered a lot tonight. It was a heck of a night. We had Jake on here earlier. We were talking about the matchup for the rest of the series. Cam, what are your thoughts on the matchups? I'll pull the matchups back up and just see what your thoughts for the rest of the series are. Understandably, they got to do fairly well, and I think Colby Patnode said it best. It really does matter what they do between now and the All-Star break. And right now they started off 1-0, and that was a huge W. But we'll pull up the rest of the weekend, see what your thoughts are. We got Emerson Hancock taking on Cade Horton tomorrow, and then Logan Gilbert taking on Colin Ray. Yeah, what are your thoughts kind of leading into the rest of this series?
Well, it's always nice having Gilbert final day of the series, but yeah, getting a game one in any series is super big, but on the road at Wrigley against the Cubs, who are one of the best teams in baseball, even bigger. Cade Horton looks like he's been pretty good. I mean, their whole rotation's probably been really good. How many wins do they have? 45. Yeah, I mean, look, Hancock's been really good recently. So every time I see him, I still get kind of scared when I see him pitch. But I look at his box scores, and he's just Mr. 5-6 innings, 2 runs, and then I'm out. So yeah, you have to feel somewhat decent getting one of these next 2 wins with Gilbert, but getting 1 win here is just big. And then you got 4 in Minnesota, but yeah, I feel decent. They're all at 11:20 a.m., which is interesting. I'm gonna have to plan for that. Should be able to watch part of tomorrow's game, but man, the Cubs like those early games, don't they? But
yeah, I know that. They're not even East Coast; they're Central Time. What are you doing?
Yeah, what is it?
Those deep dishes take a long time to cook. Okay, so
they like their noon games so they can party at night, I guess. I don't know. Is that the best way to put it? But then they got the Twins, right? They're staying Central.
4 games.
They're going to take on the Twins, which they don't have the matchups up yet, but I think we can assume we got Luis Castillo coming up here. But yeah, getting into the Twins, I think the Twins are kind of in that 40+ range. with wins. If I remember off the top of my head, let's see.
I think they're scuffling a little right now.
Standings. Yeah, I think they've fallen down a little bit, but they are. Yeah, they're 37. They're 37 and 38. Which again, I mean, you got so many teams that are just in the mix. Even though they're below 500, they can kind of strike at any moment. The Twins on a yearly basis remind me of the Mariners. Like the Mariners and the Twins are so similar in so many ways. They don't overspend. They don't go to free agency for big deals. They trade for their players. They do a lot of the same stuff. So it's that series in general, just playing the Twins, I think you're going to get a good even matchup. And Byron Buxton, of course, we had to face him when he first came back, and he went off, and he's on my fantasy team, so that's good. But Byron Buxton is back, and he's doing phenomenal. And just going into that series, it sucks. And then the Tigers and the Yankees series coming up before the trade deadline is also crucial. I agree. The Tigers series, that's going to be tough. The Yankees are on, Scooble. And isn't it funny that our only W against them is getting it against Scooble, Seattle U Zone. The Yankees, I did want to point out, are kind of on a skid, and for no reason. Like they lost, I think they put up, 2 total runs against the Angels in that last series.
They got shut out 3 straight. It was 30 innings they get topped at it without a run.
It was ridiculous. And then as much as I don't necessarily care for the Yankees, but it was funny because their announcer had talked about, you don't even see 13 runs in a week. Well, they didn't even see two runs in a series, which I thought.
You could tell funny. Sims was so like, what the F did you just say? Like, come on, really? Like that was clickbait at a minimum. And we could talk about a certain reporter for the Arizona Wildcats a few years back that talked about
Mrs. Megan Coughlin.
There's the one. And how'd that go the next day?
Yeah, Cam, I don't know if you were around for I think it was 2014 when you and I were there, and it was her name was Megan Coughlin, and she was a reporter for Arizona. And she called out Wazoo fan base. She goes, I'm not gonna, the tagline said, I'm not gonna lose sleep at night knowing that we're going to play Wazoo this weekend. Which is a tough thing for an Arizona, like Arizona football's never been a prowess. It's never been like good. At least Wazoo was good in the 90s and early 2000s and produced the top, had a number 1 overall pick. But she came out with this whole thing about attacking our fan base, that we're not a good fan base. We don't get enough fans. Well, our stadium's not that big. Like, what can you do with Martin Stadium? Martin Stadium's just, I think you can fit 32,000, and you look at the Power 5,
I think.
And at the time, it's the smallest in the pack. And honestly, I think it's fairly average for Mountain West, or maybe just slightly above average in the Mountain West, which I'm not talking shit on my alma mater, but hey, like, let's get a little bit better. How about it? But we go in and we beat Arizona.
That commenced. The axe whooping that commenced was phenomenal.
We love to see it.
So we always, whenever we play Arizona, we call it Megan Coughlin Day. That's been around ever since. And it's funny because I found her on back then. I had a Twitter, but I wasn't active on it. But I found her on Facebook, and I said, "Hey, I didn't see the game. What was the score?" And I happened to go back, and like, that was just me talking shit. But I mean, come on, it's harmless. I go back, and I'm like, it was in my archives, because obviously she didn't respond. And I look in there, and I see her name was changed to something else. She got married. And I was like, who is this Megan Hansen? Who's Megan Hansen? And I looked through the conversation. I was like, oh, it was Megan Coughlin. And I was like, oh, I'm glad she changed her name. And she got out of journalism altogether. Like, she's no longer doing sports journalism, which, well, when you do that, it's tough to come back from. But
we'll all do a million. Hopefully she's doing great. But that alone,
hopefully she's doing great.
Fueled us to an absolute ass whooping, and I got to enjoy it.
You just don't talk shit to the Cougs before you beat them. You talk
We
shit
can
after you
cook
beat
it
them.
on our own. We don't need
Yeah.
you to add to it. Quite frankly, it's inverse. You
It
want to add to the cooking it, we will actually do the opposite, and we will uncook it.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're gonna talk shit to a team that's bad, we have every right to beat you. And we will. And we did. But anyways, we're coming up on a 2.5 hour mark. I'm getting told by my wife I'm getting too loud down here and everything. Wanted to give it to you guys for final thoughts on tonight's season, trade deadline, any topics that we didn't cover that you guys wanted to talk about. Wanted to give you guys the floor to just open the door for that one. Cameron, we'll start with you. What's your thoughts on everything and just where you're at with all that?
Yeah, super impressive win today by my box score analysis that I've done. It's really important to win first game, especially on the road against a good team. But for the trade deadline stuff, I think it's always really fun to talk about. And I think as we get a couple weeks closer and then some on the show, it'll be more interesting, more fun to talk about as we get closer and we know where the team could be and who is going to be available. I think that talk gets more and more interesting. But right now, just all speculation on buying or selling. But yeah, hopefully we get a good start from Hancock tomorrow and the offense shows up once again. I mean, pretty much everyone balled out today. So hopefully we see it again tomorrow, get a series win. And who knows, maybe go for a sweep with Gilbert on the mound and then roll into Minnesota. I mean, the most Mariners thing ever, we go, what is this, a 10-game road trip? So we're going to go like 8-2 or something. And then we're going to come back home and fall flat on our face. And then everyone's just going to be like, I don't know what this team is. But yeah, let's enjoy the highs and be sad about the lows and enjoy baseball.
And try and move on.
Yeah, let's watch and be surprised every time.
Yeah. Kyle, what are your final thoughts from everything? It's okay, gather them. I'm just giving you shit.
There's so much.
I know there's a lot.
You want to go trade deadline? Get yourself an everyday first baseman. Find yourself a left-handed reliever, and use your farm system to acquire that. Also, dogs 0-12. Ty, you should know what that means. I'm good.
Yeah, I had to give a Huck the Fuskies in there. Yeah, and honestly, final thoughts for me are continue to stay positive, even though Rowdy Tellez is no longer with us. Find ways to stay positive, and that's been kind of my motto for the whole season. And honestly, my motto just coming from the coaching life into fandom. It wasn't always like that. I was always very, very pessimistic. I was always anti any move that we made. I'd find a reason to be mad about it. Now it's just like, okay, you know what? Hey, the chips have been in front of you for the past 10 years. Ever since Geppetto's been here, it's been kind of the same wraparound with everything. You know what you're getting yourself into. You know what kind of to expect. Is there going to be a splash at the trade deadline? Yeah, maybe. And is it a Randy Arozarena-esque trade? Sure, absolutely. Do I expect it? Nope, I don't. I'm not setting myself up for failure up here. But I do expect them to do something. I do expect them to try to compete. But between now and the All-Star break, if things just go so south, well, then the shift in mindset is how do we prepare ourselves to be competitive next year? And it's not a fun conversation because I'm also a Seattle Kraken fan, and that conversation's been had over the past 3 years, halfway through the year. How do we be competitive the next year? Ron Francis didn't do a very good job of assembling the team, but he did do a really good job of trading for, good draft prospects, or I should say we got Cape Coco. If you're familiar with hockey or watch the Seattle Kraken, Cape Coco is really good. And he's young and he wasn't doing well with the Rangers, and we got a good deal out of it. And then we also got some really good first and second rounders for the next couple of years. So how can you be excited about moving forward? It's just finding new ways to be attached to the team, excited about what's coming up. So find ways to stay positive. It's not easy, but find ways to stay positive and just get yourself to the trade deadline, see what that looks like, and then you can be disappointed. Once we get to the trade deadline and we know which side we're on, if we're on the seller side, now we can be the disgruntled fan. Now we can be like, okay, is the next topic at that point is, what does the Jerry era look like? Is this the end of the Jerry Dipoto era? I don't think it is. I truly don't. I think the ownership is happy with just being competitive and not winning. I don't think the ownership's goal is to win a World Series. Unfortunately, I don't think their goal is to win a World Series. I think their goal is to be competitive, get as many fans to the game, and have a enjoyable experience at the game. Right. And hence the hot dogs in the sky and everything. I think that's their goal. If their goal was to win a World Series, you'd see more aggressiveness at certain points. And right now we're in that window. So my final thoughts are stay positive and just find a way to be excited about this team. It's not always easy, but just find ways. But if everybody, thank you so much. Again, we have the event coming on tomorrow. If you haven't heard, make sure you're following Jake from Raise a Trident. He's got a really good thing that I'll be attached to tomorrow at 1:00. So we're excited to see you there. But Cameron, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Just remember, life's too short. Gas up your boys. That's going to do it here from Up West Sports.